Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I finally finished reading. Did I say reading? To say reading, my mistake. But I finished reading Umineko no Naku Koroni, also known as When the Seagulls Cry, Umineko, When They Cry, or as I will probably be referring to it throughout this video, or maybe videos, depending on how long it ends up actually being, Seacats. I started my Seacats adventures 8 years ago, in 2015. I remember that very specifically because I started reading it in between my senior year of undergrad and my 1L year of law school. It was that summer. I was on YouTube and I had found like silent playthroughs. So, which shout out to people who do that. Like, nothing wrong with a full-on Let's Play where it's someone playing and they give their opinions as they go. There is nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I just want to be able to watch a thing like Silent Hill 2. We're only 2 minutes in. I'm already going on a tangent. Fucking take a shot. But I remember, I tried playing Silent Hill 2. I couldn't get into it because of how weird it felt to actually play, but I wanted to watch someone play, but I wanted someone to be quiet so I could just enjoy the atmosphere, the story of the game without someone reacting the entire way and influencing my opinion, and I got that, and it was wonderful. And I got that with Seacats. I was able to read Legend of the Golden Witch that way and Turn of the Golden Witch that way. Very specifically because I knew it was a horror story because hadn't read Higurashi, but I had watched it and I fucking love it. I can't wait to read it for myself, but regardless. What I had wanted to do was, since this is horror, I want to only read it at night. I want to turn off all the lights, get really into the atmosphere, and there was one scene in Legend, which we'll get to when we specifically talk about Legend of the Golden Witch. You might know which one I'm talking about. That freaked me right the fuck out, and I'm so glad I played it in that atmosphere. I read it in that atmosphere. But after reading those first two, I got partway through number 3. That is the weirdest 3 I have ever made. Normally it's either like this or like this. I don't know why I did it like this, but okay. Anyways, so I was reading part 3. I was reading Banquet. And this is when I actually started law school. It was during my first semester. So through a combination of the internet not being that great in my dorm at that time and really wanting to take my studies seriously, I wasn't reading it. Started the second semester where I was like, okay, I now have a better idea of how to law school. I now have more time. I know, I think by that point my internet got a little better. Or maybe it was just the second year, not the second semester. Where it's like, okay, internet's better. I kind of know what I'm doing. I can go back to reading this. I wasn't really sure where I had stopped in Banquet. I know I hadn't gotten to the first Twilight yet. And I was like, I already read 8 to 10 hours or so. I really don't want to restart it, but I'm not exactly sure where I am, and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm not gonna do it. And then for 8 years, I didn't fucking touch it. But I kept wanting to, and I feel like that's important. It was not just I don't know, so I'm gonna ignore this forever. It was, at some point, I want to get back into this. I don't want to have to reread the first 2 books. But it's been a few years, and then a few years just kept getting longer and longer and longer. But even with that being said, there were still a lot of things I remembered. Which, let me go ahead and say right now, throughout this, I don't even want to say analysis, I don't think I'm really going that deep. Throughout as I'm talking about Seacats, so I guess here's the roadmap. My experience with it, my journey through it. Then I want to go book by book. This is kind of the shit that happens. Here's the characters it introduces. Here's, the themes and layers to the story that get introduced. Here's some of the moments that really stuck out to me, etc., etc., etc. And then by the end, here's, my ranking of all the books. That'll probably be it. I'm not going to do a full character ranking, because Clay is also still reading it right now. He's on part 6. When he's done, I want us to do a tier list video just going through the cast and Oh man, I know we're gonna get into a huge fight when it comes to Rosa. Sorry, I expect to be here a while, so I came prepared with some water bottles. Anyways, to my point, full spoilers the rest of the way through. Now, I might still try to say some... I'm kind of going back and forth. It's like, do I want to say some things a little more vague? Do I want to just go full spoilers? Because Clay's not done yet, so, like, should I do it in a way where if he wants to watch it, he can? But, no, I'm just going to talk about whatever the fuck. So, full spoilers from this point forward. Let me give a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, spoilers. So 8 years ago, while I was reading books 1 and 2, I ended up getting some major fucking spoilers. I had learned about Saya Yasuda. I learned that Shannon and Cannon are the same person. That person is the bastard child of Kenzo and his daughter. It's so uncomfortable. Gosh, like, oh, that fucking scene in Banquet when you're getting, like, some of the backstory of Beatrice and, like, Beatrice 3 and Beatrice 2 and shit. Like, some of the way that things were being specifically said or not said. I'm like, oh, I hate this, knowing what really happened. I don't remember the specific wording, but, like, it made my skin crawl. I loved it, but I hated it. But I knew the twist with Shannon and Cannon. I knew who Beatrice was. I don't remember if there was anything else that I knew. I don't think so. Like, I didn't know about Lion. I didn't know what really happened on Rokenjima. I didn't know the significance of the clock. Is that it? That might be it. Oh, and I didn't know about Toya. That's another big fucking thing. But, like, those things I didn't know about, but I knew a really big thing, and Shannon, Cannon, and Beatrice. Sorry, I know I was trying to make that point, but I forgot what I was saying beforehand. I think what I was saying is that even though it had been 8 fucking years, I still remembered this. And it wasn't that having this knowledge made me go, well, I know the big twist, so I don't want to read it. I'm like, no, this is super fucking interesting. I still want to read it. I still have this information. And there's still these, like, specific scenes from Legend and Turn that live in my head rent-free. Specifically, the legend scene from Laugh. The laughing scene from Legend. The singing scene from Legend. And the, Rosa's tea party from Turn. Those scenes in particular, I remembered incredibly fucking well. So that was part of the, I know I should reread them, but I don't really want to, but I want to get into this. I don't know when I'm going to do it, blah, blah, blah. But at the start of this year, I said, I'm going to make a big backlog list. Here's some books I want to read. Here's some games I want to play. Here's some VNs I want to read / play, depending on the kind of VN it is. And at this point, I've consolidated that to some of the VNs that to me are more like games, like Somnium Files, the second one specifically because I played the first one, that I put with my game list. Whereas like Fate, Hollow, which I still haven't read, that's more in the reading list. But regardless, Seacats was on there. Like, this is one of the big main things I want to read this year, along with Fate. So whenever I've said, like, yo, Fate's one of the big ones on my list, it is. So is Seacats. And I'm really glad I got both of them done. Like, holy shit, that feels awesome. However, even though I knew I wanted to read it, and I was going to do it this year, I wasn't exactly sure when. The one evening, I'm hanging out with Clay, and he's watching a video. And I think the YouTuber's name, it's like Keksi? It's like, I believe it's Keksi. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sorry if I'm not. But it's their video, Umineko Ruined My Life. And us watching that, I was like, some of the things that he kind of talked about in the video was like, oh, I kind of know what he's alluding to here. There were a lot of things I didn't, because again, I'd only read the first 2, I can't even say 2.5, maybe 2.25 books, but also had some spoilers. It's like, oh, I kind of know this, I kind of know this, I don't know this, I don't know this. But man, like, I do really want to read this. And it got Clay really interested in it as well. And the tipping point of us reading it was Clay watching that video and going, this sold me. I know you really want to read it too, JJNW, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. I'm going to start reading it. And I was like, okay, so here's what I'll do. I'm not going to full on read parts 1 and 2 because I've read them already and I think I remember them pretty well. But while I'm hanging out with you, I'll kind of read it with you. And the times when I'm not able to hang out with you and reading it with you, just kind of fill me in on what happens. So we'll see. We'll essentially see how well I actually remember this. And while there's a lot of, very specific things I don't super remember, like I don't remember exact lines of dialogue between Ava and Kraus. But I remembered the kind of gist of the characters. I remember what everyone looked like. I remembered a lot of the conflicts. I remembered the deaths. I think I remembered the death order, like, really well. It might have been slightly off. I was like, damn, it's been 8 years, and I actually really remember this shit. Go me. Okay. And then the same thing with Turn, which, rereading Turn, like, all the scenes between Shanna and Canon, okay, the voice acting is impeccable. And while there's some okay, so to me, the characters that have probably the best voice acting of the VNs that I specifically read, which I'll put a quick pin in that. Beatrice, Kinzo, and Ava. I think those are probably my favorite performances, at least as far as, like, the first 4 books are concerned. Maybe throw Battler in there as well, but I fucking love Battler so much. But just any time Beatrice is talking to me, Shannon, Cannon, or she's calling him for Chicago, yeah! I love that shit. It's so fucking entertaining. It is wonderful. Anyways, but anytime she is actually talking to Cannon and Shannon, knowing that they're all the same person, it is fascinating to read and listen to. Like, this person is crazy. They are so fundamentally broken. I don't know why. Now I do. But at the time, I didn't fully know everything. Like, oh man, I can't wait to delve deeper into this. And Clay has no idea what the fuck is actually going on. He thinks these are just 3 strangers. Oh, let me take that quick pen out. Because after he had finished parts 1 and 2, I actively started reading the VN. And I was like, cool, I will restart Banquet. Let's go. So we finished Banquet. Then the fun thing happened. So the fun thing is 2 things at once that happened early to mid-May. Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I went on vacation. Clay, after finishing Banquet, he's like, cool, I'm going to play Tears. When I'm done with Tears, I'm going to go back into Seacats. I'm going to take a break for Zelda. Totally fair. For me, I had said, I'm going to go on vacation for a few days, so I'm also going to take a Seacats break. I wasn't lying. I intended to do it, but I also didn't say it in red. So there was nothing binding me to that. I read the vast majority of Alliance of the Golden Witch while on vacation because I couldn't fucking stop reading. It's like, oh, I'm on a plane? Bet. I've got like a couple chapters pulled up that I can read on my phone, because I read like the whole thing on my phone. Like on the plane, on the airport, in rides, waiting to go on shit, like walking around Potter World, like, oh, okay, this shit's really, really cool. What the fuck is Ange up to? Or it's like sitting in the hotel room, like, man, like, this is really nice. I need to go to sleep, but okay, let me just read the scene with Marie and Sakataro real quick. So when I was done with Alliance, I finished it like a day or 2 after getting back from my vacation. My brain went, okay, here are my options. I can keep reading the VN, just like get the next set of arcs, get Shidu, and go. Number 2, I can wait for Clay, and I can read something else in the interim. I've been wanting to read House of Leaves for a long time, which I have started, by the way, and it's fucking awesome. I love it. I was like, I've been meaning to read House. Maybe I should do that. Maybe while I wait for Clay, I can read a few arcs of Higurashi, because I'm wanting to read that. Maybe I can read, maybe I can get caught up on some manga. Like, we'll do something. And it's not a bad idea. Manga, huh? I mean, what I could do, because from what I understand, the manga's a really good adaptation. It was literally written by Ryukishi 7 himself. You know, I could just read the manga for the answer arcs, and yes, that means I'm gonna miss out on the music. And the music in Seacats is impeccable. It means I'm gonna miss out on the voice acting, which, see previous point, it's impeccable. But I can get through this, like, it's still going to be the same story, and apparently as an adaptation, has no problems with that. The only problem is it maybe gives you a little too many answers, but given the kind of person I am, for me, that's not inherently a bad thing. That sounds kind of nice, actually. I can get through it a lot quicker. And I really, really like the artwork in the manga. So that's what I did. Because I think I had even told Clay, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take like a few days off, either wait for you to catch up or read something else. And once again, I wasn't lying, but I didn't say it in red either. So I read the shit out of the manga. I think I read End of the Golden Witch in like 2 days. Dawn of the Golden Witch, I don't remember how long Dawn took. I don't think it was super long, but it was like a few days. Requiem took a while. I remember I finished it on June 3rd because that was the day of my friend's wedding, and I specifically finished it on the way back home from the wedding, and I finished Twilight of the Golden Witch, which is part 8. I finished it on June 8th. Like, those dates aren't super important. It's just like, I specifically remember that, so I'll kind of throw it in there. Let me see. Is there anything else I really wanted to say about my journey through Seacats? I feel like there probably is. Oh, yeah, I already kind of talked about, like, the spoilers I knew when I was reading it. I guess to kind of revisit that, I did mention the spoilers, and I have kind of talked about it a little bit, but I do feel like there are inherent advantages and disadvantages of reading it the way I did. On the one hand, I do lament the fact that I couldn't go through the narrative completely unspoiled. Even a theme in the story itself is, when they talk about the cat box, once you look inside, you learn the truth, and that's it. Truth cannot be unlearned. And yeah, like, there is a part of me that kind of goes, I wish I didn't know. So as my brain is, like, looking at the evidence and doing shit, I wouldn't have confirmation on anything. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is like, this is a red herring, this is a red herring, but this is evidence toward the right thing. And it's so good, and like, I can see I'm kind of making both points at once. Let me try and focus on one. I hate that I will never go through unspoiled and be able to try to reason out the mysteries on my own. However, the fact that I could read it and see where a lot of the story was going, and even now, having read the manga and finished the story, but I'm still kind of hanging, I mean, of course I'm still hanging out with Clay, he's my roommate, he's one of my best friends, like, still hanging out with him while he's reading, and seeing shit that I didn't notice earlier. Like, for example, when he's reading End of the Golden Witch, I had no fucking clue what the hell was happening in that book. Like, when it comes to the actual mysteries, like, wait, no one was moved after they died. How? But they were dead. It even said in red, like, the way one thing I have noticed a lot is once you know what's going on in a mystery, what is said in red is just as important as what is not said in red. Because there were moments, I don't remember exactly what Lamb was saying, but she was like, blah, like, red, 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 red. They were killed, and that wasn't in red. I was like, that's fucking, you clever bitch! That's really important that is not in red. I get what you're doing. This scene makes more sense now that I know what happened. That scene makes more sense. I love, like, it's like the part of me as a writer who loves stories, who loves storytelling, and like how you fucking build your story and your foundation and how you do all your foreshadowing shit, loves that I knew some of this information, and loves that since Clay is behind, I can read with him and see some of the setup for the payoffs later. It's so satisfying. It is so gratifying. Does it justify me looking into the cat box way earlier than I was supposed to? A bit. It kind of does. And I think that's another thing I love. It's like, I can't even be mad that I'm spoiled on it because I got to see it from another perspective. And it's just fucking good. I adore it, man. Yeah, I just talked about that. Okay. So that was the first part of the video. It was just me talking about, like, this is my journey with Seacats, all that kind of shit. I guess the idea is, like, now you have context of how I experienced the story, and it's just something I wanted to share. It's clearly, to me, very fucking topical when I'm talking about Seacats. So now, I do want to go book by book, starting with Legend of the Golden Witch. So, who does Legend introduce? It introduces the vast majority of the cast. It introduces the 18 people on Rokenjima. The Ushinomiya family, which is, going to do this off the top of my head without looking at any notes. Kenzo, Kraus, Ava, I'm just going to go siblings first. Rudolph, Rosa. Then their significant others. Natsui for Kraus, Hideyoshi for Ava, Kirie for Rudolph, nobody for Rosa. Then you have the kids. George, no, fuck George. Sorry, I didn't mean that as, like, I hate George. Is like, wait, no, that's wrong. Because it's Jessica for Kraus, George for Ava, Battler for Rudolph. Though there is another kid, we don't meet her until the end of part 3, so we'll put a pin in Ange. And then Maria for Rosa. Then we have 5 servants. Shannon, Cannon, Genji. Technically, Genji should probably be first in the pecking order, but Shannon, Cannon come to mind first. Kumasawa, Goda, and then Dr. Nanjo is number 18. So those are our 18 poor bastards on Rokenjima. I think that's it. Because, like, while you technically meet Beatrice in part 1 because she shows up in the tea party, I don't really include her until part 2, kind of the same with Burn and Lamb, because that's when you really start to get into that element of the story. But it introduces those characters. And some of the other important shit that it introduces. It introduces the actual legend of the Golden Witch. Just saying that, like, yeah, there's a witch that lives in the forest, blah, blah, blah. She's the family alchemist. This is how Kenzo got all his money. It introduces the idea that there are 10 tons of gold hidden somewhere on the island. It introduces the epitaph and the riddle. And, like, on the first Twilight, blah, 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 blah. Second Twilight, blah, 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 blah. The portrait. I should probably save this for when we talk about Twilight of the Golden Witch. But when I saw it in the final chapter, when I saw that fucking portrait in the orphanage, I cried so hard, man. Like, it was an ugly cry. It was not just like like my eyes are a little wet or like a sexy cry with one tear. It was like these hot tears stinging my face, stinging my cheeks. Like, I was reading on my phone, on the monitor. Like, I had to put my phone down and just cry for a couple minutes. I was like, okay, now let me finish. And there was like 2 pages left. It was not the only time I cried. I cried thrice throughout the series. All were in part 8, so I'll talk about the specifics there. Like, for like a few days, actually, after I finished it, like, whenever I thought about that specific panel and seeing the portrait again, they just got this rush of emotion out of me. I fucking love it, as you can clearly tell. So those are, like, the characters and all the things it introduces. So a lot of the themes that get introduced in part 1 would be, for me, number 1, the fact that it is a family drama, and to me, a very compelling family drama. Let me try that again. One thing I had remembered from, like, the little bit of Umineko digging I had done 8 years ago, which, unfortunately, I ended up leaving it spoiled, is people consider part 1 and part 2 the really boring parts. And I remember when I had read them, I was like, this is the boring shit? This is really good. This is super interesting. All of this shit about, like, you got these 4 siblings who all kind of hate each other, and they all really hate their dad, but it's mutual. Like, Kenzo's a fucking awful person. Holy shit. But all of this and how they're all, like, they're all fighting over the money, and they're teaming up against this one brother, but he's got dirt on them, and meanwhile Kenzo's just like, look at my stupid ass money grubbing children that I have basically raised to be like this. I really hate them, don't I? It's like, this to me is actually really interesting. And seeing the four cousins interact, I'm like, they're actually really endearing. I enjoy this. And then you've got Rosa and Maria, and you're like, oh, what a sweet mom and daughter. And then later she starts slapping the shit out of her kid, and I'm like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? And then George is like, hey guys, let's just kind of leave the mother and daughter to take care of their shit. And then when they're done, when Maria comes back to us, you know, we'll act like nothing happened, but we'll just be really nice to her. Just, you know, it's Rosa's a little, and on the one hand, I'm like, that's pretty fucked, George. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, let's just, because I think it's Battler is, like, actively trying to stop Maria, and then George is like, hey, man, like, I know we're all family, but, like, this is a family matter. Let's not get involved. I'm like, that's pretty shitty, dude. I get it, but also, fuck you. Like, I mean, come on. But just all the family dynamics I found really interesting, and I was really invested in it. And then on top of that, the kind of next layer to this was like, that's a really good layer of interesting shit. Then you get the murders. And they're kind of fucking insane. The first Twilight, like the first murder. So generally the way the murders work in Seacats, if you are not familiar, which I kind of hope you are because I've just spoiled so much shit. Whoops. But also I said full spoilers. I gave a countdown, so I can't really apologize for spoiling anything. Anyways. They generally go from a pattern of 6, 2, and then it kind of depends. It might be like, okay, so that's, because usually 5 people are alive at the end, so it's 18 people. So 5 alive at the end, plus 6 would make 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, which would mean another 5 sacrifices, which can be like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I think it's, because I think that's how it is in the first one. Because it's the first Twilight where everyone's face gets removed, because holy fuck. Then it's Ava and Hideyoshi getting stabbed in the head with the stakes. Kinzo is found in the boiler room, already on fire. Kanon is stabbed in the stomach. And then, yeah, because it's those two. And then later, it's Genji, Kumasawa, and Nanjo all together. So sometimes it'll be like 1, 1, 3. You might get 3, 1, 1, because I know Goda... Excuse me, because I remember in part 2, it's Goda, George, and Shannon all die in the same room. What did Kanon die? Yeah, because Kanon was part of the second Twilight in the second one. That went 6, 2, Nanjo and Kumasawa together, and then it was those 3, and then you have your survivors, and then, you know, the goats fucking hate everybody. But regardless, the murders are fucking crazy. The murders are, it sounds bad to say, the murders are a lot of fun. But just like I really like the paranoia of the murders. There is still the mystery of who is doing it, who actually has... There's like, okay, who has the motive, but also who really has the means. And trying to piece that out, I think, is fun. But it's the paranoia, especially how in the first couple books, Battler's like, no, I refuse to believe and refuse to suspect that it could be a member of my family or one of the beloved servants. Or Nanjo. Neither of those, but still just like a homie. Like, I refuse to believe this kind of thing could happen. And then by the next couple books, he's like, nah, this person's the fucking killer. I don't want to. I want to suspect my family. No, but I also don't want to fucking die. I want to be able to beat this game, etc., etc. And so I really do enjoy the murder mystery elements. And the genuine horror, which let me bring up those fucking scenes again. The part where Maria started laughing. So, it's like 3 in the morning. No lights are on except my computer screen. Pitch black outside. I am in a room by myself. And in the house I was living in, it's like, okay, so there's me facing this way. There's a door right there. And then my back is to so much shit. Like, there's a sliding door behind me. There's a whole lot of room. So if there's a demon coming up, he's got a lot of real estate. So I'm sitting there, and then there's this CG of, like, Maria's big face, like, super zoomed in, just smiling, everything's normal. And then she just starts laughing. And this is after learning that her mom was murdered and her face was destroyed by a weed whacker or something. I don't know if they specifically said what it was. And she starts laughing, and it's kind of smiling, like, okay, that's weird. Okay. Okay. And then it just becomes this like demonic smile and her eyes just get fucking huge. Scared the shit out of me. I specifically remember I did not scream because like it's 3 a.m. My mom is sleeping upstairs. My dad is sleeping upstairs. My sister is sleeping upstairs. I'm not gonna be the asshole who starts screaming in the middle of the night because of a scary picture in a game. But I remember just kind of going, nope. I think I like closed the computer, got up, opened the other door, and kind of started pacing back and forth like, nope. That was fucking scary. That was unexpected. I didn't like that. I fucking hated all that shit. No, because I didn't turn the computer off. I think I just paused it. And I was like, like, I gotta walk it off. Okay. Am I good? JJNW? Are you good? Okay. Let's finish this scene. And then I did, but it scared the bejesus out of me. And then the scene later where Maria's in a room with 3 other people, and then they get a call from that room, and as they answer the phone, all they hear is this like really quiet child singing. And then when you go into the room, Maria is just facing a corner. You don't see her, and she's just singing something like it's a sweet like nursery rhyme song or whatever the fuck. And it's just, meanwhile, like the walls are splattered red, the ground is splattered red, and like, oh, there's a lot of blood in this room. There were 3 other people here, and now they're all kind of like this mesh of blood and guts and unidentified everything, and I was like, oh fuck, this is creepy as hell. I'm so glad I'm watching this with the lights off. Holy crap, this is great. Also bad for me. Ugh. And yeah, like I love the genuine horror in part 1. There are still horror moments throughout the series, but to me, part 1, and maybe again in like the VN, the horror elements are stronger in some of the other parts, but for me, part 1 remains the scariest. And while it's not my favorite by any stretch, because while I do think part 1 is still really, really good, most of the other parts I like a lot more. I still have a lot of love for part 1. Yeah, I talked about that. So I guess so another thing I want to say is, even if I don't want to do a full thing about like, this is what I think of all the characters, I do want to do it in the tier list. I do still want to talk about people. So like the characters who really stood out to me after reading Legend of the Golden Witch. So just kind of the cousins as a whole, because they got a lot of focus, but in particular Maria for scaring the shit out of me. Kinzo for being just, you don't realize how truly awful Kinzo is at this point, but you're still like, this doesn't seem like a good dude. But he's also just this crazy man, like this just crazy old dude, and half his dialogue is just bah, Torichi, and every time it kind of just gets a grin out of me. One of my favorite kinds of Seacats memes are just it'll be like normal conversations. It's like, here's an average Ushinomiya family conference. Like there's one, and someone dressed as Ava screaming at someone dressed as Rosa, and then someone dressed as Natsui just doing this, and then you hear like Kinzo's muffled in the background, and it kills me. There's another one where it's like, yeah, an average conference, and like there's no music, it's just everyone in like the dining room, and you just hear the sound of like a knife, like knife and fork cutting some meat, casual conversation, and then like just super muffled. It makes me laugh every time, man. I feel like by the end of the story, I may be getting a little ahead of myself, but it's me, it's gonna happen. I feel like by the end, I'm supposed to view Kinzo with some degree of sympathy and see like the tragedy in him. I don't sympathize with Kinzo at all. I think if he had met Beatrice first, and then he had to get married as part of his, role in the family and being like the puppet head of the family, and he's like, well, I have a wife and kids, but this is not the woman that I fell in love with. These are not the kids of the woman I fell in love with. And that's why he's so distant from them and treated them like shit. It does not, like, justify the way he treated his family, but you kind of get it. But the fact that it's reversed is like, no, like, yeah, I had to get married. I didn't really care for her. And then I had kids and I kind of blinked and they were there and, like, teenagers and shit. And I just didn't care about them. Then I met the woman of my life. And I was like, oh my God, you're wonderful. I love you. Oh, right. You all. It just makes him worse. And then other things, like I mentioned, the incest rape, he's just awful. But he's so consistently entertaining. Like with his fucking bug-eyed sprites, him screaming Beatrice's name when he picks up Kraus, like with his finger. I imagine it's with his pinky. Like with his pinky, holds him up by his collar. Like, I can't hate him. Like, I hate the man. But the character is fantastic. And in part 1, where you don't get a lot of the baggage, Kenzo's great, man. Also have to give a shout out to Auntie Nat. I love Natsui, especially in part 1, where, like, she is just a mama bear, and I respect the shit out of that. I was gonna say, she's a mama bear without the baggage, like someone like Rosa, and they're like, actually, there's a lot of baggage there, too. You just don't get it until part 5. Like, holy shit. How do all the likable people of the family still end up being pretty despicable? With the exception of, like, Jessica. There's, like, nothing wrong with Jessica as a person. And even then, in part 6, I mean, because of the love game, she did kill somebody, but she didn't really kill somebody, so I guess she still gets out of this without being an awful person in any way. And then I do have to talk about the ending. So the ending of part 5, or excuse me, the ending of part 1, or not part 5 yet, buddy. The ending of Legend of the Golden Witch is everyone but the cousins die. Beatrice makes her appearance, although the reader does not see her. It's just somebody appears, kind of says some shit. Then the credits roll, revealing that the Golden Witch Beatrice is the winner of this game. And when the seagulls cried, none were left alive. That all of the information found was found in a message in a bottle. Shout out to And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which gets very specifically referenced later. And, like, yeah, the only person who was identified is like, oh, like, they could not find the body parts of almost anyone who died on this island. Except one. They found Maria, the sweet little girl, they found her jawbone. And through dental records could identify her. Which, of course, reminds me of a meme I've seen with the old-ass sprites, too. Which, I fucking love the sprites in terms of, like, I don't know if I could do a full VN with the old sprites. I really don't. But their meme potential is so fucking powerful. There's one with Beatrice talking to battlers. Roses are red. Violets are blue. They'll need dental records to identify you. And it's written in red, written in blue, then written in gold. Like, I love that meme. That's so funny. But yeah, you get that. You're like, they only found her jaw? What the fuck happened? And the fact that you never meet Beatrice in part 1 proper. So you don't know. It's like, okay, is it someone dressed up as a witch? Is it actually some supernatural bullshit? Is there some eldritch demon? I don't know what the fuck happened. It's really, really good. I remember Clay was saying, he's like, dude, I would love to see a movie just of part 1. Like, if all of Umineko was adapted, because there is no anime, but if all of Seacats was adapted, like, that'd be great. I'd love it. But, like, just part 1 on its own with that ending would make like a really creepy horror movie or like a horror miniseries. And yeah, I'd watch it. I'd 1000% be down for it. So that's part 1. I know, like I said, it's not like a deep analysis, not like a real review. It's like, this is a lot of the shit that it introduces, and here's the stuff that really stuck out at me. So now we turn the page and go to Turn of the Golden Witch. So the characters it introduces here, it introduces Beatrice. It introduces the Golden Bitch herself. And I don't know if I would say she's my favorite character in the story. She's on the short list. But it introduces her. I believe it introduces Lamb and Burn. It introduces the goats. The goats don't get really good for me until part 4. With the scene with Kraus, which I think is the funniest scene in the entire story, by the way. But it does introduce the goats. And this is the part that introduces the game. So the main conflict of Umineko is not introduced until part 2. It's not just the murders. It's not just the family drama. It is the game between Battler and Beatrice. Where Battler, in the tea party, like in the afterlife, he's like, I don't believe in witches. I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in any of the supernatural shit. So Beatrice goes, okay, you and me, we're going to play a game. We're going to run it back. Not this one specifically, but like everyone on Broken Jima, they're back alive. That was a terrible snap. That was a better snap. Everyone's back alive. I'm going to kill everybody again. We're going to do the same formula. 6, 2, another 5, and then you'll get your survivors who are all going to die at the end anyways. What you have to do, as you are watching this story unfold, you do not specifically have to solve the mystery of who was doing it. Because it's me. I'm doing it. What you have to do better. I fucking love the way she pronounces his name. I can't remember the name of the voice artist. I think it's Sayaka something. I think it starts with an O. I could be wrong about that. She just kills it. Every line. It's like, you know, when she has to play Beatrice being like really like demure, she does it well. When she's playing this person who can be really intense and there's this sadness to her, like in part 4, it's really good. But when she can just be chaotic, evil Beatrice and every line is just dripping with malice, it's wonderful. It's so good. It's so fun. So yeah, it's like, okay, so Battler, your job is to figure out how the murder was done. My position is that it was done through magic. That, yeah, it was a locked room. I turned myself into a golden butterfly, snuck through the keyhole, turned back into a witch, and went stibby stab. Or like summon my familiars. I didn't include the stakes on here because I believe Satan is the only stake that appears. They don't get, and then they kind of get in like the tea party. I can kind of consider them to get fully introduced to part 3 personally. But it's like, this is the game. You prove how a human could have done this, and I will just say, and my position is that a witch did it. And if you, and as Battler makes his claims, Beatrice will say things in red. And the rule with red is, if I say it in red, it means it is the truth. Now, the truth can be interpreted in different ways. And again, it's what you say and what you don't say can be equally important. And how you specifically say something is also incredibly important. For example, there are no more than 18 people on Rokinjima. That is true. That does not mean there are 18 people on Rokinjima. Boy. Oh, I fucking love this story. Anyways, point. That's the main conflict, is Battler going, this is my theory, or like, this is what happened, and Beatrice going, yeah, but in red, blah, 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 and Battler going, oh, fuck, my theory is gone, well, let me mope for a bit, and then figure something out. So it introduces that. Some of the other themes that it starts to introduce is... What the fuck does that say? Oh, like the mystery solving. Because, yeah, in part 1, you get the murders, but it doesn't actively try to solve them in the story. It's just like, well, you're suspicious. But in part 2, it is actively trying to solve them. It's like, okay, it's a locked room. How did this shit happen? Here's another locked room. How do you think this happened? Blah, 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 like, this person's body disappeared. How do you think the body disappeared? Well, I think this. Yeah, well, in red, blah, 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 so that theory doesn't work. And I like that a lot. You get the, one of the main things, though, that part 2 does focus on, that Turn focuses on, is the romance angle, which, if you've seen Seacats, you can say it with me, Without love, it cannot be seen. I don't remember if that phrase first shows up in part 2, but you do get these romances. You get the romance between George and Shannon, Cannon and Jessica. Which, if I am being honest, not my favorite aspect of the story. It's mostly just because I think the George and Shannon relationship, like, it's good, it's sweet, I like it. But Turn in particular, it focuses a lot on it, and it feels like it takes a long time for, like, shit to start happening. Other parts do that too. I don't want to say that I was bored with Turn, but it was kind of like, I like this, I care, but can we hurry up and get to the good shit now? Man, I feel a little bad to Blasphemy saying that, but I mean, can we? But I do like George and Shannon. Cannon and Jessica, I think, is fine. Mostly because with George and Shannon, you're like, they're actively in a relationship. You actively get to see, like, their chemistry, how much they care about each other, them planning their future. Whereas with Cannon and Jessica, it's more just, hey, he's kind of cute and I don't have a boyfriend. And he's, like, the only dude on the island that I could maybe get a thing with. Like, I'm kind of interested. And then Cannon just going, yeah, but, like, I'm a servant. I am furniture. So, nah. Now, am I oversimplifying it? 1,000%. I'm fully aware of that, but I don't think it's super interesting. It gets more interesting later. Like in part 6, I like it a lot. But here in part 2, I'm like, it's fine. Although I really like all the conversations between Shannon, Cannon, and Beatrice in part 2. But a lot of that is because I know the twist, and I think it makes it far more interesting. So for me, the characters that really stand out in part 2, Beatrice, and Beatrice. I think this is Beatrice at her best. Maybe part 4. And again, not to say that after this, I'm like, oh, this is the one book where Beatrice is good and the rest she's bad. Nothing like that, but like I said, like this is her at her most just chaotic evil. Again, maybe in part 4 when she's drunk, which is fucking hysterical. But she's so entertaining in part 2. Her, again, when she's talking to Shannon and Cannon, when she's fighting with Battler, at the end, where she has just broken Battler's spirit and is just fucking with him. Or the tea party with Rosa. Holy fucking shit. It's like, oh yeah, this is wine. How do you like that wine, Rosa? Yeah, it's a little metallic. Tastes kind of weird. Yeah, well, it's made from your brother Kraus, actually. It's his golden drop of blood. Do you know what a golden drop is, by the way? So a golden drop, Rosa, I'm glad you asked. It is the last drop of blood in something's body. See, as a witch, I could kill and then bring something back. No problem. Just a snap of my fingers. That was another bad snap. That's better. That was better. That was a really good one. It was like the snap of my fingers. So what I've been doing is I have been bleeding your brother dry till the last drop of blood. And I put it in that wine glass. So that full glass of wine, that is made of every final drop of blood in your brother's body. Time after time after time. Oh, you don't like the wine? Well, here's a pie made of your brother Rudolph's handsome face. Here's I don't remember what Ava's was. It was some kind of dish, but it was made from her tongue because, like, she's such a sharp-tongued spitfire. Here's her tongue. And then for dessert, I remember it was Maria. I was like, yeah, the daughter you don't love, who's always getting in the way of things. Eat your daughter. And Maria's like, it's okay, Mom. I know you don't love me. I'm like, this is so sad. What the fuck? This is wild. So Beatrice stands out. Also, Rosa stands out. This is like the only book except part 8, where Rosa doesn't die early. In part 3, Rosa does not make it she does not die in the first Twilight, but she dies in the second Twilight, so I would still say she's an early death. But almost every other time, she's a first Twilight victim. She is just fucking Gonzo the Great once things start happening, and as a Rosa fan, which I am, am I proud of it? No! She's an awful person! But I mean, with like cards on the table, full bias. One, I am insanely attracted to her, and I don't even know why. I can't explain it. She just does it for me. Like, just looking at Rosa fires all my neurons. But on top of that, I genuinely think this is a very interesting character. I don't know if she's bipolar, but I feel like she might be. Like, there's clearly some kind of mental illness here. It might be borderline personality disorder. Maybe there is a separate personality, because Maria frequently talks about, like, there's Mama, and then there's the Black Witch. I really think the Black Witch is, like, it's a metaphor for some kind of mental illness. I just don't really know what it is. And yeah, there is that part of her that doesn't love her daughter. And that's fucked. I am not going to pretend that it isn't. It's fascinating. I won't deny that. But it's fuck. God, reading part 4 broke my heart, man. It really did. But at least as far as part 2 was concerned, Rosa comes across as this woman who is trying her best with her daughter, but is ill-equipped. But then you get her at the end with, like, all the goats swarming, them trying to escape the island. Rosa's got a few gold ingots and a shotgun. It's like, but, you know, what is the thing from Aliens? Like, get away from her, you bitch. Like, you get that. I love that shit. Like I said in part 1, you got Natsui going full mama bear, but with Rosa, you get it. You have all the baggage of their relationship that you, the viewer, have seen up to this point, and it gets worse later. But you do get that she does love her daughter. When push comes to shove, she will do everything she can to protect her. She did not say, here, have my daughter so I can escape. When there was a situation where it's like, I can either grab the gold or I can grab Maria, she chose to grab Maria. There is a good mother in there. It's a few layers deep. Might take you a while to excavate it, but it is there. And I do find that really interesting. I would also say, given how much this arc does focus on Shannon and Canon, they did kind of stand out to me. Also, Goda, because in part 1, he's a first Twilight victim, and he's just kind of an ass. But in part 2, he's really a homie. He's like, okay, Rosa's in a room with the kids, and she has a gun, and we think Rosa might be the killer. We gotta go save those kids. And he's like, bet. If I get shot, I get shot, but I gotta do what I can. He's just... I know Clay frequently, he's just like, poor Goda, man. Like, this dude, he is not part of the family. He's not part of any of the conspiracies, any of the bullshit. He's just kind of a poor bastard. Like, completely out of his depth. And, yeah, he really is. I just feel really bad for Goda. And I, by no means, one of my favorite characters. Like, Rosa's on my short list for being my favorite, as much as she shouldn't be. Goda isn't, but I do like it. I give him a shout out. Yeah, I've already talked about the ending. Or not fully. So you got Rosa fighting the goats, Rosa's tea party, and then as Beatrice is just torturing Rosa, Battler shows up. I'm pretty sure you get a Dameda, Sen, Dameda. He like grabs Beatrice's head, shoves her into the table, and is like, okay, you broke me. You emotionally broke me. But no one does this to my family. No one turns my family into food. Nobody feeds my family to my family. Fuck you. I am back. Let's run it back. And then that's how part 2 ends. And then you go into part 3. Which, I'm going to go ahead and take a short break. I've been here for an hour and I still have 6 fucking parts to talk about. But I'm excited. I'm having fun talking about this. I just need a little bit. Okay, so we're back just like Battler and Beatrice for Banquet of the Golden Witch. So, the characters that Banquet introduces. I mean, this is the proper introduction of the 7 stakes of purgatory, which are, if I remember them, Lucifer is pride, Satan is wrath. I'm not going to do them fully in order. Beelzebub is envy. No, sorry. Beelzebub is gluttony. Leviathan is envy. Asmodeus. That's how I remember Asmodeus. Asmodeus. Asmodeus has lost Belphegor's pride. What the fuck did I say that? Belphegor is sloth. And I didn't say someone. I don't think did I say Satan Wrath? I think that's the one no, Mammon. I didn't say Mammon. Mammon and Greed. Sorry, that's all 7. So it introduces them. It introduces the Chester sisters. I think that's how you pronounce it. Looks like Chester. I know in the manga it would sometimes say the Siesta sisters with an S, sometimes the Chesters. So I'll kind of say it like Chester, but it might be completely fucking wrong. It introduces Virgilia. It introduces Renov, as I will be calling him Bronov. I fucking love this dude. And I love his relationship with Battler. And we'll put a pin in the other character it introduces, which we'll get to in a second. In terms of plot, what it really focuses on is the riddle, the epitaph of the Golden Witch. And this is what happens when someone solves it. Yes, there are 10 tons of gold on Rokenjima. Yes, whoever solves this riddle gets the gold and becomes the head of the family. And Beatrice says, you know what? You did it. Good job. I am going to pass on my title as the Golden Witch, as the Endless Witch, to you, Ava. Because Ava is the one who solves it, and Rosa solved it, like, just after. Like, my baby girl missed out. But Ava solves it, which leads to the introduction of Ava Beatrice, or as I will be calling her, Avatrice. So Avatrice is why I have to shout out Ava's voice actress. She does a great job as Ava, like no bullshit about that. But the fact that she also voices Avatrice, which is both a much younger version of Ava and a far more vindictive version of Ava, and makes them sound very distinct, just fantastic performance. Avatrice's laugh, which sounds like she's actively choking at the is the worst sound I might have ever heard in my life, and I love it. Like, it's I don't want to say it's like a perfect evil laugh, because like you've got like Kinzo, which is this like absolutely like this is a terrible person enjoying the terrible shit happening, but it's like this kind of deep like, and then you've got Beatrice, which are just like yeah kind of cackle, and then you get the witch and the which is fantastic. But just Avatrice it's so mocking, it's so condescending. It's just awful, but in the best kind of way. And that's what Avatrice as a character is. She's just horrible. Like, the shit she does to Rosa, I can imagine that if I hated Rosa, and I know there's a lot of people who do, they probably love that scene. It's like, hey, we just get to watch Rosa die a bunch of times. Like, oh man, these are some really fucked up deaths. Like, the whole spider thing, like that one made me really uncomfortable. That's not even just like, come on, why are you gonna do my girl like this? That's just that one kept me up a little bit that night. Like, I can't even lie. But I mean, she is the Golden Witch. She basically, she's like, I have magic. I got magic, bitch. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. And like, whenever Beatrice is like, hey, could you, stop that? No. That kind of does lead to another thing, though. Beatrice has a character arc in this, where, like I said, in Act 2, or in Turn, she's very chaotic evil. Here, she's more like, yeah, like, she's chaotic evil at first, and then seeing Ava do the things she does, she's like, that's a little fucked. But then what really caused it is talking to Battler, being like, hey, Battler, like, you see this shit? Look at what she's doing. She just got magic, and she is doing insane bullshit. Like, I wish I came up with some of this creative shit. What do you think? And Battler, seeing a family member, you know, someone he loves, being tortured endlessly, is like, what? Why the fuck are you showing me this? This is no longer, you know, like, this is no longer, like, a mystery. This is just torture. And the fact that you are showing me this and you're laughing, I'm sorry, now I remember that meme from Joker. Like, you're laughing. You're murdering my family and you're laughing. And Beatrice Stormley's like, yes, of course. But here, like, it bothers Battler so much that even Beatrice is like, okay, I'll see if I can get it to tone down a little bit. And it leads to her arc of kind of trying to stop Avatrice, excuse me, and trying to understand why she can't really get through to Battler. And by the end of all of this shit, it's all bullshit. Because by the end, after the Avatrice is defeated and they're on good terms again, she's like, it was all bullshit. I didn't go through any changes. I don't need to change. It was all to lull you into a false sense of security so you would accept witches, bucko, and you're doing it. I win. And Bat like, no, run it back, bitch. But, like, having finished the story and, like, Battler's, or, like, Beatrice's relationship with Battler and all that, I don't think it was. I think this is very genuinely a woman going, I don't understand why I can't connect with him. Talking to Virgilia about him, being like, hey, master, teacher, what am I doing wrong? Like, can you give me some advice? And her being like, yo, just try something different. You know, he's used to this side of your personality, which is maybe a bit much for him. Maybe try something softer. Maybe actually trying some fucking empathy. And it working. And then after it works, she's like, okay, I was able to make a connection with him. I want to go back to my normal self now because it's more fun. But I feel like she genuinely was upset at the way Battler, like, was feeling and wanted to make it up to him. And I do, like I said, like the Jessica Cannon relationship, I think it's fine. George and Shannon, I think is better, but I think it's still kind of fine. Battler and Beatrice is one, like, I really like this one, and just seeing it evolve, I think is super interesting. So for me, the characters that really stuck out, Beatrice, because of course, Roanoke just being a homie, Virgilia making, like, just being really cool throughout, and then at the end, like, yeah, I was totally in on it. I was fucking with you too. It's a lot of fun. Ava and Avatrice. Also have to give a shout out to Rudolph and Kyrie, who in the first two parts were just, they died in the first Twilight. They didn't get to do shit. And you're like, oh, this is what happens when they survive. They're a problem. They're kind of fucking people up. No wonder you always get killed. Like, these guys are badass. Like, I really like Rudolph and Kyrie. Blah, blah, blah. And then, so, when it comes to the actual ending, it is, Battler is about to accept witches and go into the Golden Land, but he's like, wait, I didn't agree to this, fuck you. And then, he's about to get stored by, like, goats and witches and all this, and then some chick he doesn't know shows up and he's like, wait a second, are you my sister? Because it's, take that one pin out from earlier, this is when Ange is technically introduced as his younger half-sister, because Battler is not Kyrie's. I just realized I keep saying that, I haven't explained it. So, Kyrie is the name of Rudolph's wife. Her name is Kyrie. However, Clay he kept pronouncing it as Kyrie, and so I now pronounce it as Kyrie. Whoops. Like, that is what I will put. Like, I know I'm saying it wrong. And at this point, I'm kind of intentionally saying it wrong. Not to disrespect the character, not to disrespect the name. It's just now what I am used to. It is Rudolph and Kyrie, so I will just keep calling her that. But I understand it is Kyrie. But Battler is Rudolph's son with his first wife, Asumu, who is dead. She's been dead for a while, but Rudolph was fucking Kyrie at the same time. And when Battler found out, he's like, wait a second. You were cheating on mom for years, and then when mom died, you immediately married another woman? Nah, fuck you. I'm gonna move in with mom's grandparents. And that's something I also probably should have said. Battler not going, which, like I said, you probably already know all this anyways. Battler had not been to the family conference in like 6 years. He hadn't seen his cousins in a long time. He hadn't seen Shannon in a long time, which was really important later. And Ange is his little half-sister. Rudolph's with Kyrie. And then, well, I'll kind of put a pin in that. So that's part 3 ends with Ange showing up, saving him, and then you get scenes with Ange and Byrne, with Byrne going, okay, Battler's a worthless fucking piece. Can you be any better? Yeah, I mean, I give you no guarantees that you'll actually be able to save your family, but maybe if you're really lucky, you'll find a fragment where one of them will still be alive. So that's more or less how Ange is introduced, which leads to part 4, Alliance of the Golden Witch. So the characters it introduces. You get... Sorry, I zoned out for a second. You get, just in general, the humans of 1998, because Ange is from the future, because she did not go to Rokenjima because she was sick, and as such, she survived. Oh, that's another thing, is because Ava was the killer as Avatress in part 3, she also survived and is the only person to get out. What I don't remember if this is something you find out early in Alliance or at the end of Banquet, but is that she was in the Hidden Mansion at the time when everyone else died. The incident is referred to as the Rokenjima accident, not the Rokenjima massacre, but that's what I will be calling it primarily. Ava has not told anyone what actually happened, which leads to several people suspecting that she is in fact the killer. However, investigations were performed, nothing was ever found to implicate her, but Ange fully believes that Aunt Ava is a murderer. Ava took her in after, her parents were dead, her brother was dead too. And she's like, no, I think you fucking killed my family, I fucking hate you. And then Ava's like, well, you know what, you little brat? Ooh, Ange was like 6 at the time. She's like, well, you know what, you little brat? I lost people too. And if you're gonna hate me, I'm gonna hate you. I might not be your parents, but you're not my George, who fucking died on that island. You know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna make your life a living hell. Because while later parts do try to make Ava sympathetic here, and I get it, she still treated Ange like shit. You're like, yeah, Ange wasn't accepting of Ava. She was also a 6-year-old who was just told that her entire fucking family was dead except for one person. You kind of... I mean, I'm not expecting the 6-year-old to have the emotional maturity here. Ava could have done better, putting it lightly. But part 4, a big focus of it is on Ange. Like, this is what her life is like 12 years in the future. This is just, like, going over some of her backstory, like her relationship with Ava, her relationship in the boarding school, St. Lucia, which is the same one from Higurashi. And then also as part of her adventures, like, I want to learn the truth because Ava died old as sin. Ava died and she left everything to me as a member of the family, but did not tell me the truth, that old bitch. So I am going to go and, like, dig everywhere I can to find it. Also, she has, like, one of the things she has is a diary of Maria, which she frequently reads because Maria was her onechan. She was like 3 years older. They were really close. And she's like reading Maria's diary, which is how you get Maria backstory and learn that her life is the saddest fucking shit. We'll talk about that in a second. But the characters introduced us to the cast in 1998, which is primarily Ange, Okanogi, which is the head of the company, the Kasumi Sumadera, which is Ange's mom on Kairi's side, or excuse me, Ange's aunt from Kairi's side of the family. So it's Kairi's sister. Amakusa, who works for Okanogi and is kind of Ange's homie. And then just a few other people she meets, like Nanjo's son, Kumasawa's son, a guy who's really into, like, the occult shit and researching Rokenjima, etc., etc. Is there anyone else? Okay, so a couple of things it does introduce. It introduces Gap, who's another one of the demons. And it introduces the message bottle. So I said that earlier. At the end of part 1, it says, like, yeah, like, this, all this shit was found in a message. It says that there were more, with the implication being that every book, which is an implication that gets, like, confirmed later, but the implication being that every book was found in a message. With, even though, hi, princess, while the first message bottle said it was written by Beatrice, or excuse me, it said it was written by Maria, it was actually written by Beatrice. Yeah. So that's the character, some of the things it introduces. To me, the big theme of part 4, which you do get in the other parts, you do get it in part 3, where you talk about like Ava and her relationship with her dad and her relationship with Kraus, is the generational trauma. I mentioned in part 1 that, like, yeah, the family drama is a big part of Seacats. It's kind of the foundation to everything. This is kind of an addendum to it, where it's not just like, oh yeah, this interesting drama about the family and all their money and shit. It is, can I help you, princess? Do you go outside or something? No. No, don't leave. Only. I don't want to be late. Hi. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and let princess outside, and then I will continue it. Princess, move your head so I can at least... Okay, so as I was saying, in addition to the family drama, this part and part 3 as well emphasize the concept of the family trauma, the generational trauma. In part 3, you get it in regards to Ava and how, she wanted to become the head of the family, but Kraus was the one who's like, he's born first, he's the male, it's gonna be him. And she said, I'm gonna do everything I can to prove to father that that is the bad choice. I'm gonna be smarter. I'm gonna have better business sense. I'm gonna get better grades. I am going to rise above my station as the second child and as the first daughter to be the head of the family. And how Kenzo just said, no, you're a woman. You don't get to do this. I have made my decision. If you go against me, then you don't deserve to be my child. You don't deserve to inherit. Disinherited. Blah, blah. Just the fucking sounds that his voice actor makes whenever Kenzo is like coughing or dying is the most intense shit, and it's fantastic. But anyway, like you get that, and then in part 4, you get it with Rosa. The way Rosa was treated by her siblings was really bad. The way she was treated by her father is the way Kenzo treated all of his family. So bad. It's also in an earlier part, I believe part 3, they mention how, like, oh yeah, for whatever reason, mom was particularly strict with Rosa. So just, she did not have a good childhood. She did not have a healthy childhood. And it just did not equip her well to be able to be a mother. She treats Maria awfully. She will leave her alone for several days and be like, hey, Maria, are you okay? Mom's at work right now. I'm going to have to be all night. I hope I'll be able to see you, but I probably won't. But, be a good girl. These are the rules. Don't break the rules. And Mama loves you. You're like, okay, but I mean, she's really busy. She's got to be able to put food on the table. She's the president of a company. She's got to keep the company afloat. It's sad, but, that kind of shit does happen. Maria's a very lonely child, but she does love her mom, and her mom seemingly loves her. And look, she gave Maria a special present. She gave her Sakutaro, who I didn't mention as one of the characters, but it's Sakutaro. It's Maria's little lion doll with like this cute little red muffler that he wears, and it's her best friend. She brings him everywhere. She always talks to Sakutaro, and Rose is like, please just don't bring that thing whenever you go shopping. It's like, here's some of the rules, don't stay out too late, of course. Don't drink soda right before bed. When you go shopping, don't bring that thing. Just leave it here. Don't shop at the same place twice because they might ask questions. If you see a policeman, don't talk to him under any circumstances. You're like, okay, like don't stay up too late. That makes sense. That's a good mom rule. Don't drink soda right before bed. That's a good mom rule. Don't bring your toys with you. Okay, like maybe you just don't want the shit to get lost. Like I can kind of see that, and it's, don't shop at the same place twice. They'll recognize you. Like, that's really suspicious. Don't talk to cops. You 1000% know that everything you're doing is wrong, and you're doing it anyways, and Rosa, you're making it really hard to like you, baby girl. I'm sorry. And then you get to the later shit, where it's revealed that, no, she isn't super busy at work. She's off on vacation with her boyfriend, who's married. And that's why she's leaving her daughter alone. And it's not the first time, and it's not gonna be the last. And it's just... Finding that out broke my heart. It really, really did. And the fucking scene with the social worker. Well, you know what? We'll put a pin in that for just for now. We'll get to it when I talk about a lot of the scenes in part 4, because there's a lot of really good ones. Like, minor spoilers for later. Like, part 4 is in my top 3 of Seacats books. I fucking love Alliance. But to me, it's like, okay, that's the family drama, and the generational trauma is a big theme. Another one you get here is quite possibly the most important theme in Seacats. More than the mystery, more than the murders. It's truth versus reality. Or I guess it's truth versus belief. This is what it means when they say, without love, it cannot be seen. And you get that in Ange reading Maria's diary, talking to Maria's spirit, because Ange is a Nushinomiya, which means she's crazy. Everyone in this family is nuts. And reading this shit, I mean, like, your mom would abandon you for days. And then you find out it's so she could go on vacation somewhere. And she says, not only did she abandon you, she lied to you, and then when you found out, completely on accident, she, like, flipped her shit. Your mother is a terrible person. She does not deserve to have a daughter as wonderful as you, and you deserve better. Like, reading your life, Maria, you are a sad child. Yeah, it's, of course, I know Clay and I have quoted it several times throughout Seacats. Like, you mean that happy child? That ain't no happy child. It's like, you are just the most sad, pitiable person I have ever read about. And I'm so sorry you went through this. And then Maria's saying, Ange, where in that passage did it say that I was sad? Where did it say that I was unhappy? I talked to Mama. She said she was busy. She probably wouldn't make it home. So I had a party with Sakutaro. It was just us. You know, we stayed up a little more than we should have. We did have a little bit of soda, but we had a good time. I had fun. And it is that, like, because Maria does love her mother, she is able to see it. She is able to see the mom. She is able to see the person who loves her. She's able to, I think that's what it is. It's like she is able to see the complicated person in Rosa. She doesn't just see the Black Witch. She doesn't just see the, like, horrible person, because I don't want to discount that because she's fucking awful. But she's able to see the other parts as well, and that's what she chooses to focus on. There is the truth of what Rosa did, but there is Maria's belief about maybe why she did it, or at the very least, it's like, yes, she did this, but she does still love me. She does still care about me. Mama does have to be able to live her own life, you know, it's like, I get it. And to me, I think that is probably the most important theme in Seacats. Love is important. And it's not just a romantic love. It's essentially like empathy, I think, is a really good word for it. To really understand these people, you have to be able to empathize them. You have to have some degree of love for them, because if you don't, they just seem like horrible people. I think Ava's a really good example of that. And, like, you really get it with Ange. Like, Ange had no love for Ava. So what did she see her as? She saw her as, you were the only person to get off that island. And if everyone died, you're probably the killer. And I want to do everything in my power to expose you. I don't care that you're dead. I don't care that I won't get the satisfaction of revealing that truth to everyone and seeing your fucking face after. I just care about knowing the truth and bringing you and your memory down. because it's what you deserve. But with love, you see Ava as the lonely woman she was after the incident. She lost her husband. She lost her son. There was one person left in the world that she could consider family, and that person rejected her. So, Ava rejected her in turn. And like I was saying just a little bit ago, you're like, yeah, Ava, that was still a 6-year-old. You could still have, enough emotional maturity to still try and raise her. But Ava did raise her. She was pretty emotionally abusive the entire time. But she did raise her. You could say that it's like, yeah, you're a terrible person for not telling the truth. But once you realize what the truth is, you're like, there's kind of a reason she didn't tell Ange. It's probably merciful that she didn't tell Ange. And it's like, yeah, with empathy, with love for a person, you can see it from their perspective, and maybe you can have some sympathy for them. Not everything is super black and white. And again, it's like, here's the truth of it. But what do you actually believe to see? And I really like that. I love that. And no pun intended, but I really do. So, to me, the characters that really stick out in part 3, Ange is one of my favorite characters in the whole story. Maria, one of my favorite characters in the whole story. Rosa, same shit, although Rosa lost a lot of points with me in this part, man. Okay, oh god, that's right, fucking Kinzo, because in this part, it's Kinzo, known as Goldsmith, he is now the killer. Again, no sympathy for this guy whatsoever, but super fucking entertaining. This is when you get drunk Beatrice, so really fucking entertaining. I know I have not yet really brought up Battler as a character who stuck out to me. Mostly because, in part 1, I like him, and in part 2, he's fine. I'm like, I get it that you don't want to suspect your family because how fucked that is, but he keeps being like, it can't be a member of my family. It has to be an 19 person. It has to be a witch. Like, okay, so you admit that there's a witch? No! There's no way it could be a witch. It has to be one of these 18. Like, dude, shut the fuck up and just make up your mind. Part 3, I definitely started to like him more in part 3. I feel like part 4 is where I started to really like Battler. Especially by the end. I fucking love this dude. This is also the first time that Banquet was the first time Kraus did die in the first Twilight. But he doesn't do a whole lot in Banquet, so he didn't really stick out to me. I love Kraus in this book. You get the older sibling here. He is really trying to take care of everybody. He's like, okay, Kinzo is the master of the island, but I'm the other master of the island. So let me do what I can from that, place of authority. Less authority and more that place of responsibility to help everybody. You see his relationship with his daughter and how when Kinzo starts doing trials, he's like, yeah, we're going to see who's going to be the next head of the family and shit. It's going to be one of you 4 cousins, if any of you. I might say none of you are worthy. How genuinely worried Kraus is about his daughter. You do, you also get the goat scene. So let me transition to that. It's like, those are the characters that really stand out. Let's get to the scenes that really stand out. The fucking goat fight is so funny. Dude, I was laughing so fucking hard. It is impeccable. You've got George and Jessica fighting against Gap and Renault, respectively. I'm like, just that whole shit when Jessica's like, this is my answer for the head, to be the head. Or, she gives her answer and Renault's like, okay, that's it. It's not a very good answer. Hold on. That's my answer as a maiden. This is my answer as the next head of the family, and fucking breaks his nose. So she starts throwing hands with demons. George starts throwing hands with a demon, but it's more he starts throwing feet because he's a kicker. I'm like, fuck, this is really cool. I'm getting super into this shit. You've got drunk Beatrice, which is, again, one of the funniest scenes in the entire story. You've got the scene... I was going to talk about one scene, but I have to talk about another scene before it. The scene with Rosa, Maria, and the social worker is one of the most disturbing scenes in the story. Like the scene with like Maria laughing or her singing, like those were really creepy. And there's a scene in part 7, the scene with Will and Shannon when he's like, hey, can you call Cannon? That scene's creepy as hell. This one is disturbing because it is just, this is a woman yelling at her daughter, slapping her daughter, and breaking her daughter's toys in front of her. And being the worst possible mother you could imagine. Right in front of a social worker, and them really not being able to do anything. It's wildly uncomfortable. This is what all of the generational trauma leads to. Rosa was treated horribly by her family and was unable to break the cycle. Oh, excuse me. And this is what it is leading to. And then you get the scene later where Witch Maria gets to confront her mother and essentially take out... Oh, and also in that scene, she rips Sakutaro in half, thus killing him. And Maria didn't like that, and Maria gets to enact her revenge for Sakutaro, for all the times Maria hit her, Rosa hit her, for all the times she got abandoned. Like, I think it starts with, like Rosa's hands just falling off, and she's like, what the fuck happened to my hands? And Maria's line is something along the lines of, well, Mama used her hands to smack me more than she would pat my head, so I took her hands away. I'm like, what the fuck, man? That's a very cathartic scene, but it's also a really fucked up scene. And like, so the cycle's gonna continue. Huh? That's great. I mean, it's not, because Maria died, and we know for sure 1000% that she's dead because we found her jawbone. But just, speaking of which, we also get okay, so when Ange is on... Let me try that again. Speaking of Maria and Rosa and scenes that are just emotionally uncomfortable or like really got to me, the scene when Ange is on Rokenjima and Aunt Kasumi is reading through Maria's diary and just making fun of it, and Avatris is also there, just kind of in spirit. And I just remember it going, oh no, not you. And they get to what ooh means. Maria's thing is she constantly goes, just like all the fucking time, and it annoys the hell out of Rosa. She's like, yeah, at first I thought it was cute, and then she never stopped. Like, she's 9 years old. She should not be me. What's that sound? I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like something's like getting scratched at, or like there's something being unzipped. It's like coming from the corner of my room. I'm not sure if it's like the sound of a bug, like a fly's wings buzzing, or if there's something in the walls. And that's not even meaning like I've been reading House of Leaves and paranoid. Like, no, like we've had problems with squirrels living in the walls. I don't know what that is. I think I'm gonna stop when I'm done with Alliance for now. I'll probably talk about the next 4 books maybe tomorrow or something. Hopefully tomorrow. But let me go ahead and finish this before I investigate. But every time Maria is saying ooh, ooh, it is a reference to a time when she was like a few years ago, when she was hanging out with her mom, they're having a nice picnic, she was singing a song, and she couldn't remember the lyrics. So when she couldn't remember the lyrics, she would just sing ooh, ooh. And Rosa thought it was like adorable as hell, so she would do it too, and they were just like ooh, 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 and like singing and shit. So for Maria, that is a core memory, to use an Inside Out term. It is just... This is the mom that I love and the mom that loves me. And every time she is saying, ooh, ooh, it is a magic incantation, because she believes in magic and that she's a witch, that she and her, like, to hope that her and her mom can always be together and that her mom will always love her. So every time she's saying that. What she's really saying is, Mom, I love you, and I'm so glad that you love me. And every time Rosa, like, beats the shit out of her, she's saying, I don't know what this shit means, and I can't stand it. It just... I didn't cry when I read it, but I almost did. Like, it hurt. It actually really, really hurt. I think Clay said he did cry a little, like a little bit of wetness when he got to that. And the other day, Clay just sends me a YouTube video. And the video, it's just the song, When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. You know, when somebody loved me, blah, blah, blah. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And he's like, okay, so I listened to that, and I was imagining it from Maria's perspective, like talking to her mom, and I can't stop crying. And I listened to it, I was like, okay, it didn't hit me that hard. But I was like, I get it. That's really sad. That's really fucked. I will go ahead and say, since we're on the subject of Maria and Rosa, the first scene in the series that made me cry, it wasn't Twilight. It was Rosa and Maria in Rosa's childhood room playing with the dolls. And Rosa just having that epiphany of, oh my god, I've been treating my daughter the way that my family treated me, and even though I fucking hated it and it made me the person I am and I don't like the person that I am, this is what I'm doing to my kid. Oh. And you're kind of like, yeah, no shit. Like, it took you this long to realize it? Fuck you, Rosa. But also just her, like, picking up, like, her old, like, little nasty rabbit doll and using it to play with Maria. Like, I cried. And it wasn't, like, a super ugly cry. It was also, like, I'm feeling this sadness. I'm getting the wetness in my eyes. I'm like, I cried. That got me. That fucking got me. Like, of course it would be these two. Go. So yeah, that scene. So the other two scenes I really want to call attention to are, I referenced it earlier, with Kinzo picking up Kraus with his finger. Just that shit of that happening. Like, they talk about how strong Kinzo is, how intimidating his presence is. And Natsui's like, but father, don't do that. Kraus is fighting in his own way. Natsui, fighting is what you do in pursuit of victory. What you do in pursuit of losing is humiliation. He just, like, throws Kraus to the ground. I was like, this is badass. And then later you find out none of it actually happened because Kinzo's been dead the entire time. But okay, quick pin in there. The other scene, though, it's the climax, is Battler just blue truth, and then Beatrice going red, blue, and then Battler will say some absolutely dumb, fucking insane bullshit, and Beatrice going, that is stupid. I allow it. Go for it. Which, of course, small bombs is the best one. Like, how did this happen? Well, they ate food that had small bombs in it, and the bombs exploded, and that's how they died. I don't need to explain further. And Beatrice going, I allow it. Fine. I fucking love that shit. And then after, when Byrne and Lamb are talking about it, and Byrne's like, yeah, I guess that's the game. I guess the humans win. Lamb's like, no. Most of the shit he said was wrong. That was the most insane bullshit I've ever heard. Beatrice let him win. Really? I thought most of the shit that Battler said kind of made sense. Not the small bombs part. That was dumb. 100% that was dumb. But for the most part, I thought the rest of it kind of worked. Like, no, red. Which, leads into other shit with them now becoming the problem. But small bombs is so fucking funny. But yeah, you do get a lot of big reveals in this. I've talked about, like, some of the themes that happen, some of the scenes that happen, but some of the big reveals. Let's take that pen out. Kinzo's been fucking dead the entire time. It makes a lot of sense with who interacts with Kinzo, who doesn't get to interact with Kinzo. But I did not know that twist. And so I was like, wait a second, though. How the fuck did any of Part 4 happen if Kinzo's been dead? I'm so confused. And I love that. I sincerely love that feeling in Seacats where I'm like, when you have information, the story somehow makes more sense and less sense at the exact same time. But once you get to the end, you're like, no, everything worked. Like, this feels like it was all conceived at one time. He's like, I'm not going to, it feels like Ryukishi 7 said, I'm not going to actually write anything until it's all planned out, because it all has to be planned out. Because I don't want to make a logic error, which is literally the theme of part 6, and I fucking love it. But you get, so to me there's 3 big reveals. Kenzo being dead, Battler's sin, which they don't say what it is, but Battler did something. He did something to Beatrice, and Beatrice even says, she's like, no, I'm not mad. I mean, like, I didn't exist 6 years ago when you were last on the island, so you didn't do it to me. You have nothing to apologize to me over. To which Battler's like, no, I do. I can see it in your eyes. I hurt you. But I don't know how. Because I'd never met Beatrice before. I don't know. The other is that Battler is not his mother's kid. Beatrice essentially, after the sin thing, gets really mad at him, and then so she's like, okay, I'm going to take this out by essentially erasing your existence. Repeat this for me in red. Battler, I am Ushinomiya Battler. Okay, I am Ushinomiya Battler. Oh, this is how it feels to use red. That's cool. Ushinomiya Battler is Asumu's son. Ushinomiya Battler is Asumu's son. Cool. Now say that I am Asumu's son. I am, and you can't say it in red. It's like, cool. Battler is Asumu's son. You are not Asumu's son. You are not Battler. Bye. And then he, like, disappears. And then they gotta bring him back later through other use of red. And it's like, but you were still able to say that you are Battler in red. So clearly you are, like, you were still part of this family, even though she wasn't your mom. Beatrice is just playing word games and sophistry with you. And, that kind of helps. But it's like, yeah, I don't remember what book it is you find out. I know it's officially said in part 8. I think it's kind of hinted at a part in part 7. It might have been in part 6 as well. I don't remember. But Battler is Kairi's kid. It is... So Rudolph had 2 women at the same time. Asumu and Kairi, and both of them got pregnant. He married Asumu. And then she had a miscarriage. Not a miscarriage. She had a stillbirth. Her baby was born dead. So what Rudolph did, he's like, oh shit. One of my women, I had 2 women at once. They both had kids. One kid is dead, one kid is alive. And it's the kid of my wife that is dead. So because of that, what Dad will probably want me to do is to instead kind of get that annulled, marry Kairi because she actually has an heir, and I end up with her. But then what does that mean for Asumu? Because if I'm with Kairi is not going to let that woman into my life. Which, fair, I get it. But I do love her, and I want her to, like, be taken care of. Not in, like, a fucked up mafia way. It's like, I genuinely want to be able to provide for her, but I won't be able to do that. But Kairi is not just, like, my friend, someone I've been sleeping with forever. She's my business partner. So if I stay with Asumu as my wife, I can take care of Asumu and I can still have an important relationship with Kairi. I just have to switch the babies. So he bribes the doctors to say that it was Kairi's kid that had the stillbirth and Asumu's kid that didn't. Which is why Battler believed he was Asumu's son. Asumu, as far as I know, believed that as well. Kairi believed that. And Kairi has just hated Battler ever since. She's like, yeah, like, you're her son. You are the reason I wasn't able to be with my man for, what was the number? It wasn't 18, like 12 years or so. And it's like, yeah, so she never actually says this to Battler, but it's like, yeah, she does not like him. And that really sucks. Battler fucking loves her. He's like, yeah, she's like a big sister to me. I think Kairi's awesome. Like, I hate that Dad cheated on my mom with her. But I don't blame her for that. I mostly blame Dad for being a piece of shit. But, I think that's really all I want to say about part 4. Oh, I guess I should know about the ending. Yeah, so, like, the ending is that climax of them saying, okay, Beatrice saying Battler solve all the mysteries from parts 1 through 4, Battler doing it, and Beatrice saying, fine, I accept it. With the implication in the scene being that this is probably not correct. She's kind of letting him win. And then a little bit later with Burn and Lamb confirming that, yes, she let him win because he didn't remember his sin. He didn't remember why she's really doing this. So she kind of said, fine, let's just stop. And that's how the question arcs end. That's how the first 4 parts end. And yeah, like I said, with the fucking noise that was going on in the corner, I am going to stop here for now. I am going to go ahead and record the rest probably sometime tomorrow. The noise did stop, but I kind of do want to investigate for a bit. Yeah, I'll see you later. Okay, so before I dive straight into End of the Golden Witch and continue my Seacats video, couple housekeeping things I want to bring up. One, I have no fucking clue what the sound was that was coming from the corner of my room. I don't know if I'm going crazy. I don't know if it was just a really loud insect buzzing. I don't know if I actually heard something in the walls banging the walls. It literally could be all 3 of those at the same time, and I somehow would not be surprised. They're all kind of plausible. Excuse me. The other thing I just wanted to say really quick is what I want to do in this section is probably talk for about 30 minutes or so. So hopefully that'll be End and Dawn of the Golden Witch. If I can get through Requiem as well, that would be fantastic. We'll do about 30 minutes. Take a couple minutes to like pace. Honestly, maybe just like check my laundry because I just put some shit in. Like do that, sit down, and then try and finish. And then combine everything into it. I don't know how long. I think at this point we're like an hour and a half in and we've only covered half the arcs, but here we go. Let's go into the End of the Golden Witch. So in terms of character introductions, we get the man from 19 years ago, who is someone who is not seen, they're only heard, and from listening to it in the VN, it's Battler's voice, which is really interesting to me. It's like knowing the fact that, no, this is actually Shannon the entire time. She just does a really good Battler impression is really funny. And knowing how the arc ends with Battler saying, no, I was the person from 19 years ago. That is my theory to counter yours, Erica. And because this theory is also valid, you can't prove that not, so we did it. Fuck you. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense from the VN. I mean, it still made sense in the manga, don't get me wrong. But there's a little more weight to it in the VN because of the voice acting. So it introduces that. It introduces the angels, because that's a thing. Like the high, what are they? Like the High Inquisitors or whatever the fuck. So yes, when I first started seeing them, I would just go like, oh look, it's the Inquisition. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. But you get Delanor A. Knox, who I generally refer to as Knox. Because I'm not sure, like, Delanor, like, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I think it's just Delanor, but Knox rolls off the tongue for me a lot better. I fucking love Knox. Knox is a ton of fun. Her 2 droogs, you've got Gertrude and Cornelia. And then, on top of that, we're introduced to Erica. Erica fucking Ferrudo, who Clay was telling me, he was talking to a buddy of his on Discord. And how he's like, yeah, like I'm reading Seacats, I'm done with part 4, I'm about to start part 5. And his friend told him, you're about to meet my favorite character. She is best described as a combination of Sherlock Holmes and Darla Dimple. And as soon as Clay told me that, because I think I was either done with the series or like I was on part 8 at that point, I was howling. I was like, that is such an accurate depiction of what Erica is. I know I keep saying, like we'll do a full tier list video when Clay is done. I don't know exactly who my favorite character is, but I know who's on the short list. Erica is on that short list. She is so consistently entertaining. On the one hand, the VN might be a little bit better in that regard because the voice acting. Good. And then in part 6, oh yeah, very good. And just how scratchy it is. And I love that shit. But in the VN, you get the faces. some of her faces are just like so deranged, so aggro. And then you get the ones that aren't. Like there's one where, like in part 5, it's after Hideyoshi dies, and Natsui is like, she's trying to escape the room. And then when Erika finds her, she just has this it's like zoomed in, this really creepy smile. It's like, a crime happened. I get to investigate. It's my right as the detective. Like that, I fucking loved it. I saved so many panels and so many pages while reading them. I was like, that's a great face. That's a great face. And that's just gorgeous artwork. That was cool as fuck. That's a great face, etc., etc., etc. But those are the characters it introduces. In terms of the ideas and themes it introduces, it's kind of like what I was saying in part 4, how it almost reinforces the family drama level with just, to me, focusing on that generational trauma. Part 5 does the same thing with part 2, where part 2 has this layer of like, now we're actively working to solve the mystery. Part 5 reinforces that with Nox's tenets. It is the 10 commandments of a mystery, which I can't go over them off the top of my head because I don't remember what they all are. But it's essentially, in parts 1 through 4, it's more like 2 through 4, Battler's strategy was just making up whatever bullshit possible. And in part 5, Nox puts a stop to that. Like, it's trap, like, there was a trap, I don't have to explain what the trap was. Actually, motherfucker, according to the tenets of a mystery, that is not allowed. Try again. Oh, there's a secret passageway. Not allowed. There are no more than one in a story, and it has to be foreshadowed first. Try again, asshole. There's an extra person. Nope. Culprit has to be someone shown off in the story. Try again, asshole. And, like, I really liked that. Excuse me. Especially the way it's first introduced with, I think Nox just, like, she says in red, like, blah, 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 I don't allow, it's like, there's a passageway, I don't allow it. What do you mean you don't allow it? Like, what gives you that authority? And then, like, yeah, this is how mysteries are constructed. This is the shit that's supposed to make a mystery, and make a good mystery. If we are under the assumption that this is a genuine mystery that can be solved by people, you have to play by these rules. I thought it made it a lot of fun. Sorry, I got some shit in my neck. Whoa. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better. And how by the end of it, as Battler kind of sits down, he's like, okay, if Beatrice's whole game is supposed to be to get me to solve some shit, and as Virgilia tells him, yes, Beatrice intended for you to solve this and like figure out who she is and all this shit, he starts applying the tenets. It's like, okay, like, what's the first one? It's this. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's this one? Blah, what's this one? Blah, 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 blah. Oh my god. And he just, like, reaches enlightenment. And I really liked that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, another thing it does is the story gets a lot more meta. Now, yes, there's the fact that you have the meta concept of we are now really talking about what it means to be a mystery story in this mystery story, but also Erika's existence. So, in terms of, like, the game board, like, the Beatrice Battler game, which is now the Lamb, Burn, and Battler game, because Beatrice is in a coma after part 4, is, I don't think I said that in the previous part, whoops. Like, after she resigned and lost the game, which I just lost the game, fuck. She's essentially comatose. And then, like, well, we want the game to continue. She's unable to continue it, so Lamb says, I'm gonna yank your board, and I'm in charge now. Yay. So Erika's role is to be the detective. She is to be Burn's personal piece. And she looks just like Burn, like, not one for one, they're, like, wearing different clothes, and Erika doesn't have a tail, but she's essentially Burn's self-insert character, while still being, like, her own character and having her own backstory and shit. But just the fact is, like, now we have active self-inserts? What? What the fuck is going on? And it gets a lot more meta in part 6, and we'll talk about that, but I feel like this is when the story first kind of started. Like, we're gonna get meta. We're gonna start easy. We're just gonna add a self-insert, and then shit's gonna get buck wild. Let's see. Okay, so then I feel like the other ideas that it really introduces in terms of either themes or actual plot points. Like how Battler had a sin in part 4. You get to Natsui's sin in part 5. And like I was saying earlier, like a mama bear without the baggage. Well, here's where you get to the baggage. Kinzo gave her a kid. Is like, I know you can't have a kid. Here you go. Raise this as your own. It will be the next head of the family. And Natsui didn't like that. She felt that it insulted her, like it insulted her pride as a woman, being able to, having to raise a child that wasn't hers, having to love a child that wasn't hers, and just looking at that kid, to her, it reminded her of her failings. So, to quote The Dark Knight, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. And she pushed a fucking baby off a cliff! And I'm like, yeah, you really are Nushinomiya, aren't you, Auntie Nat? That's pretty fucking awful. Say what you will about Rosa. There's a lot to say about Rosa being a horrible mother, but I mean, she didn't push Maria off a cliff. In part 2, she was fighting to the death to protect her kid. In part 3, when Avatris was torturing her, she literally at one point just says, whatever you want to do to me, fucking do it, but don't hurt my daughter. Please let my daughter go. She is pleading for her daughter's life, and it's Avatris. Avatris doesn't listen. Which, granted, it's Beatrice that actually kills them. It's kind of presented as a mercy kill. It's like, say what you will about Rosa. Even the point where she's, like, telling Maria in the metaverse, like, I don't love you, I've always hated you, and a piece can't act out of character, so there is a part of Rosa that thinks that. There's also the part of Rosa that will fight tooth and nail for her kid, who will put her kid above herself. Natsui literally murdered a baby! I mean, the kid survived, but Natsui didn't know that. She didn't intend for the kid to survive. Like, oh, you're so awful. Why do I like you again? Why do I still feel invested in your character? Because I do really like Natsui. I'm like, fuck, that is bad. That is really, really, really bad. Kind of on top of that, I guess I kind of just have to talk about characters first. Okay. Let me try this. Let me put a pin in Natsui for a second. And then I'm going to finish the other real theme I feel like this introduces. Well, not really introduces. Again, it's kind of reinforcing. Like how part 4, again, part 4 to me is like really good and it's really important. Introduces that truth versus belief. This does something a little similar. Where at the end, you got Erika's theory of, okay, all the deaths here happened like Natsui was the culprit. Everyone else had a fucking alibi except her. Like, every single murder, it's her by process of elimination. I mean, just look at her. She's so suspicious. Like, she's been lying about Kinzo being dead. Like, look at her diary, all the shit she's been saying about how much she hates being part of this family. There's clearly the motive. It has to be her. That is my theory. You can't argue otherwise. And Battler comes in with his own theory of, what if I was the killer? That's how I can save Natsui. It's like, I can't necessarily disprove her, but I can put forth another equally valid theory, another equally valid blue truth that you can't counter either. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of like the thing with Anja Maria in part 4. Like, I'm reading your diary, and this is how I see it. And Maria's saying, I lived through it, though, but this is how I see it. We have two truths that are incompatible, but equally valid. Which is a big thing at the end of the story. Like, that's kind of the entire setup of part 8 is, yeah, that the actual cold, hard truth versus your belief and interpretation. And, do you pick the trick ending or do you pick the magic ending? And I feel like genuinely there's merits to both. It's very clear that magic is the good ending because, it just kind of has a better feel-good vibe to it, where, like, trick ending is just some cold shit. It's fucking hype, but it's some cold shit. Whereas magic is the more, I don't want to say schmaltzy because that almost makes it sound like I don't like it. Like, it's because I fucking love the magic ending, don't get me wrong. But it's the more just kind of like nice, feel good, you know, character. It is the more just, I think that's it. It is the more feel good of the routes. And then it keeps going. You're like, oh, okay, here's actually the fucking true ending of Seacats. Got it. And it also makes sense, though, that given what they present, you really can't get that in the trick ending with Ange's mentality at that point. But I'm really getting ahead of myself. As, you know, I want to do. Take a shot. But, I feel like part 5 is just another example of the story using that theme of equally valid but contradicting ideas. So getting into characters that stood out to me, let me take that Natsui-sized pin out of the wall. This is her book. Yes, it introduces Erica, who's a fucking treat. Yes, you get a lot of cool shit with Battler. This is Natsui's book. And you get to realize just how genuinely disturbed she is. She has hallucinations of Kinzo, and well, because that's the thing. It's like, so Kinzo's been dead the entire time. It was Natsui's idea. Like, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to hide all of my husband's embezzlement and all of his really stupid business decisions, which we'll talk about in a second when I talk about Cross. Excuse me. I was like, we're going to pretend that he is still alive, and then so it's almost like in her mind, she's kind of created a Kinzo to make it easier. Like, okay, it's a little nutbally, but nothing crazy. And then, like, there's parts where she's just having conversations, and then Burn's like, yeah, I'll say it in red, there's no one there. She is purely hallucinating. But then all this shit where Kinzo will tell her, oh, it's like, you bear the honor of the family, you know, you don't bear our crest because you married into the family. You're not family by blood, but you are just a member, like, you're just a part of this family as anyone else that he says to her in part 1 and shit. That is all in her head. That is not just, I'm pretending Kinzo was here to make things easier. She is genuinely having delusions. And as Burn tells her, and it's like, Kinzo never even greeted you. He never even looked you in the eye. He didn't ask you to defend his honor. He thought nothing of you. And it's just so, it's so vicious. It's so mean-spirited. I'm like, I feel so bad for this woman. She also pushed a baby off a cliff because she is kind of nuts. I know there's a part in part 8, specifically in the manga, it's in Confession of the Golden Witch, where Sayo talks about how, like, okay, here's some of my rules when I'm writing a mystery. And how one of them is, like, you have to have a different accomplice in every game. Like, you know, 2 games could have the same accomplice, but it's not the same accomplice across every version. Natsui is never going to be an accomplice. It's like, okay, she's not that smart, and she's so quick to anger. She has such a short temper. She's so proud. She would not make a good accomplice. She does not have a poker face, and boy, that's on full display in part 5 so many times, where she's just getting mad, and then she just keeps digging that hole bigger and bigger. There's a part where it's like, after Battler solves the riddle, they're like, oh shit, he's the head of the family, and Natsui's like, that doesn't make him the head of the family, who decided that shit? And they're like, I mean, that's kind of what we've all assumed as siblings. I mean, who knows? Like, what do you think we should do? She's like, we should probably, like, Father would know. Father wouldn't agree to this. Maybe we should talk to Father. And Cross is like, actually, on the dead Kinzo. And then she keeps going. And like, you know what, Natsui, you're right. Let's go ask Dad. Dad's alive, isn't he? Dad's perfectly fine. Why don't we ask Dad about this? And then Natsui just kind of goes like, yeah, we should. Oh. We can't. He's, tired. And then Kraus is like, dude, I know I'm the moron in our relationship, but bruh. Which let me transition into Kraus. So parts 1 and 2, he dies in the first Twilight, so I don't really get much out of him. Part 3, I still don't really get much. Like I said in part 4, I got to see, like, the older sibling, like, the guy with all the responsibility, how much he cares for his daughter, and the fucking creme de la creme of Seacats, the fucking goat fight scene. But then you have Kraus in part 5, where you get to learn about how genuinely bad he is at business, how he's been embezzling his father's money, how he has been scammed and swindled and bamboozled and led astray and flat out lied to, and how he's told Natsui about these things, and she's like, Kraus, you did not actually invest in that, did you? We talked about it. I told you no. I told you it was dumb. I told you those people are just trying to steal from me. Like, they're not trying to steal. They're just forward thinkers. Well, the world just wasn't ready for that investment. Okay, if the world wasn't ready for that investment, why did you invest? Okay, I also put down our house as collateral. Oh my god, you didn't. You didn't. And it's not even your house. Kraus, why? Then you get his best business investment. You get Moon Taurus. Where he's like, okay, I'm going to invest in, like, flights to the moon and building shit on the moon so we can have, like, property and shit on the moon. I was laughing so hard at moon tourism. And when I'm telling Clay this shit, he's like, that's not real. Like, there's no way, like, you're memeing. I'm like, dude, I'm not memeing. This is real. And any fucking meme I see about moon tourism makes me laugh so hard. There's one where they have, like, the rocket ship from Danganronpa from, like, the very first execution, and you've got, like, the old ass sprites of, like, Klaus putting on a fucking Kraus putting on a helmet, Jessica's old ass sprite putting on a helmet, Natsui trying, but she's, like, fucking yelling at how dumb this is. It is gold. And then in addition to that, though, it's after Battler becomes the head of the family and all this shit has happened, Kraus takes Natsui aside. He's like, okay, everything is gonna get found out. All of my bad deals, all of my embezzling, the fact that, you know, the house is collateral. Me, you, and Jessica were fucked. Excuse me. So I have taken the liberty to fix that. Instead of we're fucked, it is going to be I'm fucked. I have divorce papers ready so that you can make a clean break from me. Jessica can make a clean break from me. You will still be able to keep, like, a good amount of assets. You'll be able to keep your good name. I will be the villain in the story. I will take this L for my wife and for my child. It's like, I fucking love this dude. He's an idiot. And he has been stealing money from his dad. It's like, yeah, he's still an Ushidomiya. He's not a good person. Or let me rephrase that. It's because I do think Kraus is a good person. But he has his flaws. He has his skeletons in the closet. They all do. Natsui's is a literal skeleton. But I'm like, this guy grew on me a lot. I thought nothing of Kraus in the first 3 books. Except his laugh goes, which I fucking love Kraus's laugh. But, like, you have grown on me so much in parts 4 and 5, man. He is not on my short S tier character list. He's like the borderline of an S tier and an A tier character. I could maybe be convinced to put him on there. I mean, he does have, like, one of my favorite scenes. Maybe he is an S tier character. Like, I fucking love Kraus, dude. So, you know, the other characters that really stood out to me, I mentioned Natsui and Kraus. I gotta bring up Battler. Like, Peace Battler specifically, like, not being stupid, not being incompetent, and the fact that, like, yeah, it took someone else playing Battler. It took Byrne playing Battler for him to not be stupid as hell. I love that. I think that's really funny. But I do like that. And it's like, no, Battler is intelligent. Battler can be really fucking clever. And you get to see it a lot in part 5. Like, the scene where he and Erika are having their logic battle about how Kinzo could have escaped from the room is one of my favorite scenes in Seacats, which, again, I know I say all the fucking time. But I love that shit, and I was like, okay, so this is what happened. Kinzo pretended to be asleep. Natsui then went into the bathroom to do her investigation. Knowing that Natsui couldn't see him, Kinzo fucking crept over to the window, opened the window, and went, It is a roaring ass typhoon and I'm 3 stories up. I'm gonna jump out the window and go for a walk. So he does that, jumps out the window to go for a walk. Natsui comes back, assumes Kinzo is still asleep in bed, and goes, hey, this window's open. Or like, you probably closed the window before you jumped. Like, hey, this window's unlocked. Let me fix that. Locks the windows and leaves. That's how Kinzo got out. And Erika's like, what? He jumped out of a 3-story window. No, he didn't. That's stupid. Nobody does that. What's wrong with you, Battler? And then everyone else in the room's like, no. Kinzo would do that. That tracks. That's what, like, we wouldn't put it past Father. We wouldn't put it past Kinzo. And Erika's like, what? Which, speaking of which, other character that stood out, Erika. She gets better in part 6. But she's like, oh yeah. I'm an intellectual rapist. I love just violating somebody. Like those little secrets that people have that they don't want other people to know. I love the look on their face when that shit gets revealed. When you find the skeletons in their closet, there is nothing better. Like, I could see her going, this is the greatest kind of high. But, she's awful. She is unabashedly awful. But is probably, I can't say the most entertaining character because, like, this is a story with Beatrice and Kinzo. But she's up there. And then the other character I do have to shout out is Burn, being the one playing Peace Battler, playing Erika. How, like, vicious she was toward Natsui. How vicious she is toward Erika. Like, I know there's a point in the, I don't remember how it's phrased in the VN, like, at the end of the climax, where she's like, yo, you need to fix your theory, or, like, I will discard you. I remember in the manga, it was very specifically, like, fix your retarded theory. Like, it was really fucking aggro. And the face she made, again, it was just so, like, malicious and angry. Like, Burn's the problem, which that was actually another thing I had known that, like, Burn is the final boss of the story. It is not Beatrice, but part 5 is when that shit really starts. And yeah, at the end of part 5, Battler and Erika, their theories kind of cancel each other out because both of them are valid. He was able to disprove Erika's point that Natsui had to be the killer. And now that Battler has figured out everything, he gets this snazzy-ass cape, which it's only in the manga. In part 5 in the VN, he does not get the cape. It's just at the start of part 6. But he is now the endless sorcerer. He is the dude in charge. He's like, cool, we're going to play another game. Like, since this ended in a draw, we are going to run another game. We're going to run this shit back. And now that I know everything, I am going to be the fucking game master. And it's pretty fucking hype. So, I know I said I was going to talk for about 30 minutes, but I've only done one part. Let me go and do part 6 too. So, moving on to Dawn of the Golden Witch. I love part 6 so much. Part 8 is my favorite. Part 6 is my second favorite. This, to me, is like... Okay, starting off, the characters it introduces, there are 3. It introduced, what are their names? Zepar and Furfru? Sounds like a Pokemon. I think that is the name of a Pokemon. I think that's the name of the poodle. It introduces those 2 who are like the demons and gods of love. They are the heads of the love trials, which we'll talk about in a second. Essentially, they are the Greek chorus, especially in part 7. They're just kind of there to commentate on shit. And it also introduces Feathering, where, what's her full name? It's like Augustus Aurora, or it's Aurora Augustus Feathering, Aurora Feathering Augustus, something like that. She is the witch of theater going. She is essentially like Burn's boss. She is the head bitch in charge. And there's also her other identity, which it's, is it Hachijo or Hachiko? I think it's Hachijo Toya, and then you find out later that Toya is actually the name of her writing partner. She's Ikuko. But I will just be referring to the character in general as Feathering. And then just saying her human side or her witch sides, which you meet both. So the witch, it is the witch of theater going. Essentially, her thing as a witch is, I love to watch stories. I love to read stories. I love to experience a work of fiction. And I also love seeing the audience and how they react to shit. And her human side is having a conversation with Ange, who was absent from part 5, but she's back in part 6. And Ange is like, wait, I'm now having a memory of meeting this person that I don't remember ever meeting, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. And as they're talking, what the conversation is like, okay, so every book that has been read so far, parts 1 through 5, Legend, Turn, Banquet, Alliance, End, have all been messages in a bottle. Legend and Turn were written by Maria, but through handwriting samples, we know it's actually been written by Beatrice. Banquet, Alliance, and End have all been written by Featherine. They are forgeries written by people who read the messages in a bottle, which there's more Beatrice messages than just those two. Those are the only ones we've seen, but people read that shit, thought it was hype, and started making their own. It is literally fan fiction. And essentially, what's going on is Ange has been reading these stories, both from the original author, Beatrice, and reading the fan fiction, and trying to determine what the fuck is real or not. From a magic theory perspective, all these witches are real. Burn and Lamb running the game, Battler and Beatrice having their game, all that shit. From a trick theory perspective, this is Ange reading all of these stories. And the Battler Beatrice thing is, this is the part of her brain, the Battler part of her the brother part of her brain, but the Battler part of her brain saying, a human being had to have done this. I think it's on Ava, that being Ange, was like, I'm going to prove a human did this and killed everybody. And the Beatrice part of her brain going, you will never find out what happened. You can't find out what happened because a witch did it, because magic did it, and you will never be satisfied. And Burn and Lamb are further extensions of that. You have the Witch of Miracles, Burn Castle. On Battler's side, as she even says, she's like, I'm on your side, but I'm not sure ally, because again, Burn is the fucking problem. But like the Miracle side, fighting for that chance. Like, I believe in my heart of hearts that someone survived. Maybe if I keep reading, if I keep digging, if I keep thinking, I can find the version of this where my family survived, where at least someone, give me my brother at least, made it off that fucking rock. And on the other hand, you've got Lamb, which, yeah, Lambda Delta, I just call her Lamb. The Witch of Certainty. You, Ange, you the reader, are certain that there is no miracle, that there is no happy ending. You are certain that one person got off that island, and that was your Aunt Ava. There is no room for a miracle. There is only the cold, hard truth. And the idea that literally everything that I have been reading is something that another character is reading, and all of this metaverse conflict shit is just that character essentially having their interpretation of everything that's happening is so fascinating to me. I love that so much. And it's like, as much as I love magic theory for how sweet it is and how it continues the story and like that feeling of like you can change the way you see the world through the way you interpret it. Even a shitty thing like your mom abandoning you to go to hang out with her boyfriend, you can just look at as, I got to have a nice party with my stuffed animal. I love that. But the idea of the trick ending where it's like, this is what all of this shit represents, and this is how deep the rabbit hole goes. That is some meta fucking shit, and I love it. It's so fascinating to me, and that's why I'm like, there's these two truths that are equally valid, but in complete conflict with one another, and I love this one, but I love this one, but I really want to go with this, I really want to go with this one, and fuck, I love this shit, man, and like, part 6 was what introduced this idea, and it's why I adore part 6. I actually need to drink some water. I'm heated, but I'm good heated. Oh, that's some good water, too. It's just some great value shit. I mean, it's just water. It's gonna taste like water, but like I like room temperature water. Maybe I'm weird for that. Like I don't like my water hot. I don't like it way too cold because even then that's kind of unpleasant for me. But like a nice room temperature, a little more chilled though, that's lovely. So on top of all that shit, in terms of the actual plot, since Battler is running the game and he understands everything, this game is all about love. It is the love trials. It is, since Shannon and Cannon are the same person, which is not directly stated in this, but it's hinted in this. Since they're the same person, they both can't be happy. Either Shannon gets George or Cannon gets Jessica. Maybe neither, but I mean, they're both pretty Gucci on that. It's like one of us is going to be happy, but not both. So we're essentially having a competition to see whose love is stronger. So the murders are, you've got 6 people because, you know, the first Twilight's got to be 6. George and Shannon, like, are you able to kill for your love? Same with Cannon and Jessica, and then Battler and Beatrice. And now there's 2 Beatrices. There's, you're Squidward, I'm Squidward, and any more Squidwards I should know about. Beatrice is really like that. But you've got, I don't remember what they call her. I think it's like Beatrice the Elder, who's the one like wearing like the schoolgirl uniform, the one who's very confident, the one who's like, I am the Golden Witch. And then you have Chick Beatrice, who's, I think was like a Beatrice Battler maid who just, he was like, father. And he's like, don't call me father. That's fucking weird. Call me Battler. I love Beatrice. I don't want you to see me as your dad. That's fucking weird. And I'm like, yeah, knowing Kinzo's story in part 7, I don't like where this is going either. And it does not go really there. By the end, Beatrice is able to be Beatrice again. It's great. But regardless, and then Battler and Beatrice is like, cool, all of you need to kill somebody. Like, that's round 1. So George fights, it's like he fights Ava because he says some shit, she says some shit, turns into Avatrice, and then George kills her. Shannon killed, who did Shannon kill? Actually, no, it's not, I don't think it's Shannon after that. Then I believe it's Jessica. Jessica kills Kyrie. Or maybe it was Shannon and Cannon, and then it was Jessica. So I might be getting the order slightly wrong, but I remember George was first. Jessica has a conversation with Kyrie about, it's like, hey, you know, can I talk to you about love? And then Kyrie goes on this rant. She's like, oh yeah, let me tell you a bit about my relationship with Rudolph and Asumu. Like, yes, I was his business partner. I was his friend. We knew each other for a long time. We've been sleeping together for a long time. Like, there were always other women. Rudolph's going to be Rudolph. Love him or hate him, I love him, but I hate him for it too. And there was this one that I couldn't get rid of, because the others you can always get rid of. But Asumu, she stayed. And she played a very different game for me. Like, I always appealed to him more as an intellectual, from the business side. But while I could get really hard on him, she would always be really nice to him, really sweeten him up, and I just couldn't beat that. It's not that I couldn't match it, but I couldn't beat it. And we both got pregnant. My kid died, her kid lived, so Rudolph ended up with her. Which, I mean, she's already talked about this a bit in part 3 as well. But then the part that that really stuck out to me, I remember saving this panel where she's like, I wanted that woman to die so badly so I could get Rudolph all to myself. There was so much venom and malice in me that if she hadn't have died, I don't remember how she died. I think it was like cancer or something. I don't think they ever specifically say, but it is like a disease. Like, I did not kill her myself, but I wanted to. I was going to. And the fact that she died, and I wanted it so bad, and I didn't even have to do it, it was like I got away with murder. It was, Jessica, it is an unmatched fucking feeling. I'm like, oh, she's terrifying. Like, in part 3, when she starts talking about, like, her envy toward Asumu and shit, I'm like, okay, Kyrie's actually kind of scary. I'm like, oh, she's scary. And then, oh boy, in part 7, we'll talk about that when we get there. But, you get that shit. Jessica kills her. Cannon then kills Rosa. Maria then freaks out because her mom just died, goes full witch, and then Shannon's like, all right, Maria, I'll kill you. And I remember what she did was she essentially like made a giant barrier and the barrier like crushed Maria against a wall. I don't know how that's going to look in the VN. I don't know if you're going to get to see it. But yeah, there's a manga panel of Maria like, and then like has her eyes like bulging out of her fucking cracked skull. That was violent as hell. That was, I mean, again, like the artwork for it was very pretty. I'm like, that's fucked. Okay. I guess that's our first Twilight. It wasn't Beatrice that killed. What the fuck? So in addition to that, in terms of plot, we have, it's essentially like, okay, we're running it back now. Erica, you were not able to win the last game, but Byrne's like, okay, if you win this game, good shit for you. If you don't, you are going on the shelf. And I forget things that are on my shelf. So you're just going to be there for all time collecting dust, you like stupid piece of shit. So hop to it, better win. And she also said, I don't remember if it was Byrne who specifically denied it or Battler that specifically denied it, but said, you do not get your detective authority that you got in the last game, which is another meta thing I had written down but kind of forgot to say, is they also examine not just like what it means to be a mystery, but also kind of the role of the detective. The detective can't be the killer. Anything the detective, like when they look at a crime scene, they have the right to examine the crime scene. They have the right to like look at the body and go, oh, this must have happened, and to be right when it happens. All that kind of shit. She does not have that authority. She is not automatically able to see a crime scene. She cannot just say, like, these are my thoughts and have it be correct. She has to work for it a bit more. And then there's a point where she just, like, throws a fit, and then Battler's like, fine, you can get some duct tape to seal to make some sealed rooms. And, she has a lot of fun with it. It's very good! Here, what else did I want to say? I kind of had something to say and then I got a little lost. Okay, we got the meta shit with Ange. Yeah, so the other thing, like, idea that this really does a lot with, I don't know if I Englished that right. Let me try again. Another theme in part 6 that I love, and another meta idea, is the idea of a logic error. Because during the actual game, Battler's plan was, as the game master, all those 6 people who died, killed by George, Jessica, etc., did not actually die. Excuse me. They are faking their deaths. Because everyone in the family is in on it. We're going to pull a prank on Erica because she's an awful person. This detective who showed up, who's talking shit, who bullied a child because she has this really long debate with Maria about if witches exist or not. And Nox and her goons are like, this is literally pointless, can we stop? And Erica's like, no, I'm gonna crush her dreams. And it's so funny. It's so petty. I love it. But after that shit, essentially, in-game, all the members of the family went, she's awful. She's a detective. She wants a mystery. Let's give her a mystery. Me, you. We're all going to pretend to be dead. As you, me. But we're all going to pretend to be dead, have her solve the mystery, and then we'll get up, we'll move, all this kind of shit to fuck with her. So that was his plan. And then Erica kind of cottoned on to what he was doing, or at least the idea that, and then Beatrice killed Natsui for number 5, and Battler killed himself. And Battler's plan was to have Battler pretend to be dead, but still be actively doing shit. Erica cottoned onto the idea, and then Battler's like, if she's cottoning onto my idea this early, there's not a lot I can really do, so maybe I need to change the plan partway through. And he's warned very heavily, no. In a mystery, you can't change the plan partway through because that creates a logic error where, like, this is shit that I set up. And now that I've changed it, the things that I've set up no longer lead to the conclusion. Or, like, the conclusion feels like total bullshit. Or there might be things that very specifically contradict what happens later. Be very careful with your red. Because if you say shit in red, and then it's proven to be not true, and not just like, yeah, from a certain point of view, it was like, no, you are just lying. You are fucked. You lose by, like, you are disqualified, which means you go to the Shadow Realm forever. And I love that, the idea of a logic error, and how, like, it really examining that as a storyteller, you have a responsibility to play fair, to set shit up, to follow through on your ideas. And even if you do change your idea partway through, you have to make it seem natural. You have to make it seem like there was still that trail of breadcrumbs. Maybe angle the breadcrumbs a little bit better, or like in later parts. But I think you know what I mean. And I'm going to be honest, reading part 6 made me fucking hate Kingdom Hearts. As someone who loves Kingdom Hearts, one of my favorite games of all time, Kingdom Hearts 2, one of my favorite games of all time. There's so many things in Kingdom Hearts, like in the later games, like in Dream Drop in 3, that made me just go, this is bullshit. That was not... And fuck, even in Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts... I feel like I've done this rant before, not in a Seacats video, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. Kingdom Hearts 1, you see Kairi's body without a heart. So at this point, she is considered a Heartless. And in lore purposes, this is the moment when Kairi became a Heartless. But in Kingdom Hearts 2, they say, what is a nobody? A nobody is the body. So, like, when a person, like, if I lose my heart, the heart becomes a Heartless. My body then turns into a nobody. If my heart is strong enough, it will still look like me or still have, like, a humanoid appearance. Namine is Kairi's nobody. She was created because Kairi lost her heart in Kingdom Hearts 1. However, as the nobody, Namine is Kairi's body. But in Kingdom Hearts 1, you are seeing Kairi's body. Namine should not exist. That's a fucking logic error. Sora stabs himself with that special Keyblade and releases his heart. That turns him into a Heartless. That means his body, which you see disintegrate into nothing, turns into Roxas. But you don't see that. You don't see the body become Roxas. You kind of see his body become the Heartless. Then, when he hugs Kairi and he gets his heart back, his body turns back into being Sora. No Roxas anywhere. So if the nobody is the body without the heart, that means Sora should not be able to be Sora with his literal fucking body doing other shit, existing in Twilight Town where Sora has never even been. Kingdom Hearts doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. I needed that. I needed to get that out. It's a fucking logic error. It just feels like Nomura makes shit up and expects people to think that it's genius, and almost every time, like, this is actively stupid. It makes me mad. And that's why I like Seacats. Because I feel like the entire thing was planned from the beginning, and there's literally a part in the story where Ryukishi talks about, if I changed this partway through, I either did a phenomenal job, got really lucky, or I fucked everything up. And I don't feel like he fucked everything up. Like, I feel like there was almost maybe a part where he kind of considered and then said, no, I can't. I have to stay honest, and made that the theme of part 6. It's great. But then what happens, like, after Battler's kind of digging his hole a little deeper, Erica goes, okay, so let me tell you what your plan was, Battler. Your plan was to have your piece, Battler, do all this other shit, and someone would get him out of this room because everyone else was playing dead, and they could come in and switch spots with him, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you why that can't happen. You know how as a detective, I get detective authority, and how that means I can investigate the crime scene, and I can do an autopsy and determine if someone's dead or not? Yeah, you know how you said I can't do that? Well, I decided to make sure that everyone was dead. How did I do that? Oh, I killed them! And I made sure they were dead, so I just cut off their fucking heads. One at a time. And I'll say it in red. All of them were alive when I did it. That scene, that moment is like, oh, this is how deranged Erica really is. This is not just like, yeah, I'm a horrible person because I enjoy mentally fucking with people. Like, oh, no, I'm a murderer. I will do that shit. I will sink that low. I don't give a fuck. One of my favorite scenes, like, it's a very intense scene. I did not know that was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen, but I wasn't surprised when it did. I know I keep telling Clay, like, whenever he brings up Erica and, like, how horrible she is, I'm like, oh, she gets worse. But I haven't told him about it. Like, Can't wait to see his reaction to that fucking scene. It's going to be wonderful. And so, in my opinion, these are the best murders in the series, by the way. Like, the actual love trial parts of the murders, I think are really cool, but the reveal with Erica and how it just phenomenally screws Battler, it's, like, perfect. I don't know if you can hear that sound, maybe not, but that's the washing machine, and I'm almost done with part 6. It's kind of perfect, and boy, that's a lot longer than 30 minutes for this part. So then, in terms of the characters who stood out to me, again, it's Erica, Battler, Maria for her death, and also just her fight with Erica, and just all the shit that happened, like, all the people involved in the love trials. Oh, I don't think I brought it up either, but the duel between Shannon and Cannon, that part's really cool. I liked that a lot. And by the end of the part, Battler has screwed himself with a logic error, but then Beatrice is able to kind of become Beatrice again, save his ass. And after they have this shit, Erica's like, okay. All right, we're going to have one final clash. I am Erica Furuto, the 18th person on Rokenjima. Says it in red because, like, without Kenzo, there's only 17. To which Battler and Beatrice say, yes, like, I am now the 18th person. Actually, with you here, there are 17. And that's when you learn that, no. Remember when Beatrice said there's no more than 18 people on Rokenjima? Yeah. You remember later after the Kenzo thing, she said there's no more than 17? Yeah. Well, it turns out there were no more than 16. Which is some bonkers shit. Which, again, I knew because I knew the Cannon and Shannon thing. But what I love about part 6... it has the best kills. It has the logic error shit. It has the meta shit of And reading all this and how everyone is just her mental battle interpreting. And I love it all. I love how it starts with that huge reveal, and then it ends with an almost bigger reveal. I mean, it is a bigger reveal. It's like, no, there's only been 16 people the entire time. Figure it out. And it's so good. It's so cool. It's so hype. Even Battler at his smartest is still incompetent because he's still, like, fucking himself over and getting way too confident. But I can't help but love him anyways. If it wasn't for part 8 being, to me, just a perfect ending across the board, part 6 would be my favorite. But, yeah, it's great. I'm going to go and take a break, mess with my laundry, drink some more water, and then hopefully I can finish this shit. And that brings us to Requiem of the Golden Witch, part 7. In terms of new characters, it introduces a small amount. After Erica is displaced as detective for her failures in part 6, you get Will as the detective in part 7. You also get to meet Lion Ushiromiya. And who Lion is this is the baby that Natsui pushed off, but instead of pushing the baby off, accepted the baby into their home. And I'm actually not sure what Lion's gender is, because they even kind of bring it up a few times, at least in the manga, they bring it up, but Lion doesn't really give an answer. I know Yasu, from what I understand, Yasu was born male, but identifies as female because Shannon is their main persona, and Shannon identifies as female. So when I talk about Yasu, I will say she, because I feel like that sounds correct. I don't really know with Lion, so I'll try to say they. At times I might accidentally say he or she. I'm not trying to misgender. I genuinely am not sure with Lion. Which I think it's actually pronounced Leon, but I didn't read it in the VN. I read the manga and it is spelled Lion, so that's what I'm going to be going with. In addition to those two, it introduces Yasu, the character Sayo Yasuda, and gives their story. And technically, it also introduces Claire, who's Yasu's witch persona, which we know is Beatrice, but it's essentially like, this was Beatrice 1.0, which she kind of first developed the persona, like, okay, this is what the witch should look like and should, and then to kind of differentiate it, they just refer to her as Claire. Excuse me. So in terms of, like, the plots and the themes, it's almost all backstory. So first you get Kenzo. This is Kenzo's life. You know, like, he grew up in Taiwan, he was part of the branch family, but then became the head of the family because he had 11 toes. I don't know what it's called, like polydactyl or something. And it's like a symbol of good luck, I believe. I don't remember if it was supposed to be like a cultural thing or if it was specifically an Ushiromiya thing. But cool, like, we'll do that, and he'll be an easy puppet. And as a puppet, He had an arranged marriage. He had some kids. Like I said earlier, I don't remember if he had Rosa at this point or if it was just the first three. But he felt no happiness. He felt no joy. He was just kind of doing what he was alive without living. So when World War II broke out, he said, cool, I'm going to join World War II and hopefully I die because I just don't give a fuck. So he was stationed in this remote naval base on an island called Rokinjima. And it was kind of supposed to be this place out in the middle of nowhere. One day, an Italian boat shows up, or not just like a boat, it's a big-ass ship. And it's from people who were loyal to Mussolini, who fled the country after Mussolini's death. And on board, there's a bunch of soldiers, and this woman named Beatrice. I don't remember her last name, but it's a very Italian-sounding last name. And her family was very rich. Her father died on board, and what do you know? They have 10 tons of gold. So this is how the gold got to Rokinjima. This is how Kenzo was made aware of Rokinjima. And there were some tensions once, all the Japanese soldiers found out about their gold. They're like, well, we are helping the Italians. Maybe they owe us. Maybe they can give us a little bit. Maybe for, letting them stay here and station the gold, they can give us this much. And just about how the greed corrupted everybody. And eventually a fight broke out between the Italians and the Japanese, and everyone besides Kenzo and Beatrice died. The manga also, I don't remember at what point it does, it might have been in part 8, it might have been here in part 7, also adds an alternative theory that it wasn't just, okay, both sides were kind of at a tipping point, shit happened, and then everyone went crazy, and it's more that it might have just been Kenzo who killed everybody to get the gold for himself and to get Beatrice for himself. Which, wouldn't put it past Kenzo. I will admit, as much as I don't sympathize with Kenzo, because I don't, his actual scenes with Beatrice and just them, because even before he learns about the gold, the two of them just talking, spending time with each other, and him for the first time in his life, feeling genuine love and affection for another human being. Which I guess isn't technically true because of how much he genuinely cared for Genji because they grew up together, they were homies. But finding real romantic love for someone and finding that zeal and zest for life for the first time is genuinely sweet and interesting. That's why for me, I'm if that had happened and then he was forced to get married to this other woman and have kids with her, I could understand him more, but the fact that it happens in reverse, to me, doesn't endear me to him. Still entertaining as fuck, though. But after this shit goes down, they're the only two to survive, but Beatrice, I think she got shot. She is dying. It's not like she's gonna die in 2 minutes, but she's not very well off. And then she tells Kenzo, she's like, okay, I want you to kidnap me, but I want you to stay with me. Because I think he said, I'll go to Nijima, it's pretty close. There's a boat here, I can go get a doctor. She's like, no, I want to stay with you forever. I want you to kidnap me. Don't take me back to Italy. Don't take me anywhere else. And just stay with me. And he tells her, he's like, well, I can't just stay with you. Because I have to make sure you're okay. But I am going to kidnap you. I am going to take you with me. And we'll go explore the world and whatever the fuck. So he takes her and some gold, goes to Nijima, meets Nanjo, and this is how they met for the first time. Nanjo took care of her, and he's like, yeah, I don't know where the fuck the gold came from, I don't know what the hell was going on, but seeing these two people interact was the sweetest shit I'd ever seen, and yeah, Kenzo had all this gold, but I only charged him for the services I provided. I wasn't gonna try to rip the dude off, and then Kenzo's like, he sees all this money, doesn't ask me any questions, and only charges me for what, he provided. I like the cut of his jib, and that's why they became homies. You get Kenzo backstory, you get a little bit of Jessica in this world, and, this one time, basically, the servants played a prank, and she went into, the Beatrice VIP room, and it's a little creepy scene, it's pretty fun. You get some Maria backstory, which you already got in part 4, but now you get more. This is why she's into the occult. So she's grown up without a dad, and she had seen a picture of her dad before because Rosa had shown it to her. And then Maria tried to find it a few years later, couldn't, and was like, hey mama, where's that picture? Where's that thing of dad? Rosa, being Rosa, freaked out, yelled at her, maybe slapped her, I'm not sure, and was like, You don't have a father. There is no father. How dare you think that there's a father? So sometime later, a priest, like a Christian priest, came to Maria's school. And, talked about the Bible, talked about the birth of Christ, all that shit. And Maria heard that and went, Christ was the Son of God. Mary, he did not have a traditional father. Like, he was raised by Joseph, but, it was Mary and the Holy Spirit. You can have a kid without having a papa. I don't have a papa. I must be the child of God. And she goes home and she tells her mom this. She's like, Mama, you're right. I don't have a papa. Mama had me with the Holy Spirit. And like Mary, I'm Maria. It all makes sense. And I remember the panel is like, after Rosa hears this, she just hugs her daughter and breaks down crying. And Maria's like, yeah, so this is what really got me into the occult and into Christianity. That's how I know the Psalms super well. I'm the child of God. I am the spawn of the Holy Spirit. So I gotta learn this shit. And I got super into it. And yeah, some people think I'm weird. What do I care? I'm the child of God. Maria, how do you get genuinely more interesting and more sympathetic with every passing book? I mean, not real, it's not like she gets more sympathetic and shit between 4 and 5. It kind of tops out at 4. This is fascinating. This is why she is one of my favorite characters, because I do think as the series goes on, there's just more shit and more layers and more depth to this character, and not everyone really gets that. But let's see. You get that, and then at that point you get Yasu's backstory, which is the majority of Requiem of the Golden Witch. This is the story of Sayo Yasuda. She was pushed off the cliff, but then she was found by Genji, and Nanjo kind of helped take care of her. She was put into an orphanage. I don't remember what it's called, the Fukuin house, Funukin, it's something like that. I'll just call it the orphanage, where, excuse me. It's basically a thing for the Uchinomiya family. You take care of some orphans, take care of some servants, they work in the house, and eventually you send them on their way. So Sayo was working there. She developed the Shannon persona as just kind of the ideal servant, the ideal maid that she looked up to as her friend. She kept losing shit all the time. So that created the Gap character, which was not a persona of hers, but was a friend of hers that embodied the witch stealing all her shit and everything. Eventually, a lot of those other servants moved away, and I don't remember, what was it that created Beatrice? I don't remember specifically, but at one point she had said, I'm not content with just being a servant. I want to be a witch. So she also made a separate persona from Shannon. She essentially grew up into being her Shannon persona, then created the Beatrice persona for all of her fantasy and whatnot. I don't remember if it was before or after, but she met Battler at one of the family conferences. And Sayo had developed an affinity for mystery novels, for Agatha Christie, all that kind of shit. Battler did too, so they bonded. They liked each other a lot. They had a lot of fun. She always looked forward to Battler coming. And then one year, he says to her, he's like, hey, do you really want to work at this place? Do you still want to be a servant? They were both kids. They were 12? Okay, 6 years ago. So yeah, they're around 12-ish. And he had said, hey, if you decide that you don't want to be a servant anymore, that you don't want to work for the family, I will come back for you, and I'll come back riding a white horse. And Shannon thought that was the greatest thing ever. She thought it was so sweet. It was super romantic. And she loved this kid. That was her first love. So a year passes, and she's like, okay, I'm waiting for Battler. I'm excited for this. Battler's not coming. He got into a fight with his dad. Shit isn't going super well. He's not coming this year. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe this is a test from God. Maybe I'm just not ready for this yet. If he said he's going to come back for me when I'm ready, if he hasn't come back, it means I'm not ready. So I got to work hard. I got to really think about what I want, etc., etc. But then year after year after year, he doesn't show up. I think it's about year 3 or 4. I think it's year 4. is Battler writes a bunch of letters to the members of the family to be like, hey, it's been a while since I've seen y'all, but it was like Kyrie or someone said I should probably write everyone letters, just kind of let y'all know how I'm doing, see what's up, say hi, blah, 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 blah. And he didn't write one for Shannon because he forgot about her. Which broke Shannon's heart. Like, I was talking I think in part 4, when somebody loved me. When I was reading this part of part 7, it was all I could think of. It was like, this is from Sayo's perspective, and this is fucking sad. This poor woman. Well, poor girl at that point. She's only like 15. Yeah, more or less. But like, poor girl, poor kid. So that's what leads to the canon persona. So it's a combination of Battler wasn't like her companion because they weren't living together. That was kind of Jessica, but Natsui's like, I don't want you being friends with the servants, Jessica. So they were friends, but not like super close. Like they both wanted to be closer. But because Battler was kind of the one thing she had that she was holding on to, and that was no longer a thing, she wanted to move on from that. So her feelings from Battler got transferred from the Shannon persona into the Beatrice persona. And then the Beatrice persona then changed physically to look more like someone Battler would be interested in. That's why her hair went from like white, like minty white, to blonde. The boobs got bigger, all that kind of shit. The Shannon persona then started getting pursued by George, and since the Shannon persona did not have someone she loved, she was open to that, and she also needed a new companion, so she created the Canon persona, which Sayo will actively switch between, like, switch clothes and everything. It's not just Canon as a hallucination. Canon is real. He's not an extra body on the island, but she will go from being Shannon to being canon. And I know there's a thing in the anime where Shannon's boobs will actively jiggle, which is a problem because they're not real. It is like she's literally stuffing her dress because like you can't just hide that being canon. Which she is apparently in the anime able to do. So the anime, because of jiggle physics, is literally an unsolvable mystery, which is really fucking funny. But what am I talking about? There is no anime. Anyways, Will and Lion are learning all of this. So Lion is essentially just seeing, this is what your life is when Natsui pushes you off that cliff. You become her. Also, kiddo, as like Byrne is telling telling them this, I don't remember what the number was. It was like 2,200,000, 2 billion, something like that, like alternate realities. And Byrne says, guess what? I went through all these bajillion universes to see how many you exist in. This is the only one. In every other world, that is your story. This miserable sack of shit is you. That mother that you love so much, who just dotes on you like you're everything, pushed you off a fucking cliff. How does that make you feel? Tell me. Tell the Witch of Miracles. I love when people when they, you know why I'm the Witch of Miracles? Because I love taking miracles from other people. I love the look on someone's face when they know there's no hope. Because Byrne is the problem. So you get all that shit. So the real big theme of part 7 is truth. This is the truth of Kinzo, of Maria, of Sayo Yasuda. This is the tragedy of Sayo Yasuda, the tragedy of Beatrice, of the Witch of Rokenjima, of Beatrice 1, this woman who lost her home and lost her father and lost everything, but she did gain love in Kinzo. But she died during childbirth, which is why Kinzo has that thing of oh, you were reincarnated as something else. Kind of like a Steven Universe Rose Quartz thing. And that's Beatrice too, who was raised and loved by her father, but also loved by her father, who she never saw as anything more than her father, and she wanted a father-daughter relationship, and Kinzo tried to provide that, but he only not only, but he still kept seeing her as her mother. And as they specifically say in the narration, at least in the manga, I assume it's there in the VN as well, Kenzo made a mistake. He raped his daughter. She had a child, and not long, like about a year later, she died. I don't know, because I don't think it said this in the manga. I don't know if it does in the VN. But when she, was on the cliffs and she fell and died, Beatrice too, I don't know if that was an accident. There's a part of me that says, like, yeah, like she saw the oceans, she saw the sea, she was climbing down, she slipped, she fell, shit happens. There's another part of me that says, that was a suit. I don't know what that is. That might just be the wind. That might have been a bird. Anyway, sorry. There's a part of me that says maybe she committed suicide at that point. And I wouldn't be surprised. So that's her tragedy. And then Yasu's tragedy that you just see throughout all of part 7. So, yeah, you get that theme of truth. And then at the very end, you see what actually fucking happened on Rokenjima. The adults were given the epitaph, like they got the letter from Beatrice saying, this is my game, see if you can solve it, bitch. And then the adults all got together and they solved it, bitch. Bitch. But like they solved the riddle and Beatrice met them in the, like, with the gold. She's like, congratulations. You solved it. Good job. Now I will tell you everything. I was going to kill all of you. I made plans. I made a lot of plans. Here were the guns I was going to use. But you know what? You solved it. You won. So I'm not going to do it. Here's the gold. It is all yours. To do with it whatever you please. Also, you see that clock in here? That's a bomb. Excuse me. Since Rokenjima was a military base, they had a lot of explosives. And Kenzo, crazy fuck that he was, rigged this thing up to explode at midnight. Unless he specifically turned it off. Like, there's a switch, it's super easy to turn. But whenever Kenzo was in a, like, difficult situation and he wasn't sure what he should do, he would put himself on a timer to make sure he, like, to kind of up the pressure so he would get it done. And if he didn't, literally him, his island, and his entire family would explode. Because to him, it just, like, wasn't worth it. Yeah, why would anyone feel sympathy for Kenzo? Like, he does just keep managing to get worse. But it's super interesting. So now, anytime I see the clock, I'm just like, oh, it's a bomb. Like, oh, that's how everyone dies at the end of every round. The fucking island explodes. Got it. But so after that happens, Ava freaks out about the bomb. She's like, I don't know if I trust you. I don't know if I believe you. But they end up believing Sayo at the last second and things don't explode. So then, everyone, like, kind of grabs a gun. Everyone's kind of having conversations about, like, what the fuck should happen. And during a scuffle, during an argument, Ava shoots Natsui and, like, blows her head off. Not blows her head off. It's like a bullet right through the eye. On accident. At least that's how I do interpret it. Like, it was, like, the heat of the moment. I think Natsui was, like, in her face and maybe tried to grab the gun, but Natsui gets shot and killed. Kraus sees that and is like, what the fuck, Ava? It's my... So he runs at Ava. Hideyoshi is trying to fend Kraus off. His gun goes off and Kraus dies. And they're like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. They just died. What happens? What do we do? And Rosa's like, well, I didn't kill anybody. Rudolph, did you kill anybody? Nope. Kyrie, did you kill anybody? Nope. Yeah, we didn't kill anybody. Ava, maybe what you should do is turn yourself in. Because we got a couple bodies right here. It's pretty fucking sus, not gonna lie. They might investigate the rest of us, and we didn't do anything. And yeah, like, you'll go to jail. That sucks, but I mean, hey, it's an accident. We'll testify it was an accident, right, Rudolph? Right, Kai? It's what happened. You'll go to jail. You'll be in there for a few years, but you'll get out. What, like 3-5 years or so for an accident? That sounds fair. And you'll have all this fucking money when you get out. It'll be worth it. It'll be fine. So what if you lose a bit of credibility? So what if your husband loses his company? You can make another one with all the money. Come on, Ava. It's not gonna... And then Rosa gets shot in the head and fucking dies. And Ava's like, I didn't shoot. Please believe me. I didn't shoot. Kyrie's like, yeah, I believe you. I know you didn't shoot. I'm the one that shot. Rosa... I know you guys always call her an idiot, but that was really, really fucking stupid of her. I mean, can you believe that logic of inviting the cops here? What if they don't believe that this was an accident? What if they believe that we all got together and fucking murdered them? Do you want that? I don't want that. I don't want to get the cops involved at all. And then Ava is like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, Rosa was being, she was being too greedy. You know, she just wanted more money. That just stupid Rosa. Why did you do that? And Hideyoshi's like, Kyrie, I mean, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to kill her. I mean, you could have just negotiated with Rosa. She's not so stubborn that she wouldn't have, understood. Her like, oh, no, you're absolutely right. I could have, but I could have talked to her. I could have talked her down, but I had to shoot her. After all, she had the only other gun that was still loaded. And they're like, what do you mean? She's like, well, let me explain. And she's like loading the gun, which maybe she was already loading the gun. I don't remember. She's like, these guns are a very specific kind of gun. If you don't, it's a very particular way to load. And if you don't know how, it can be really hard or almost impossible for an amateur to be able to load these things. So the fact that hers was still loaded made her a problem. And then she kills Hideyoshi, and then she shoots Ava. Does not kill Ava, but as far as she knows, she did. And, Ava gets shot, falls over. And then she pulls the gun on Beatrice. And Beatrice is like, yeah, I mean, I kind of expected that either I was going to kill all of you or I was going to die. So do what you got to do. And she shoots Beatrice. So then Kyrie talks to Rudolph, and she's like, dude, we have all this fucking money now. This is great. This is amazing. But we got to do some cleaning up. That's a bunch of dead people. There's witnesses in there. There's all those servants. There's Nanjo. There are the kids. I don't give a fuck about George, Jessica, or Maria. I'll put them in the ground. We gotta do what we gotta do. But I know Battler's your kid. I know he's your brat, and I know you love him. So I'll tell you what, Rudolph. I'll make you a deal. If you can talk to Battler, if you can convince him that this was all an accident and he believes you, or you convince him to go along with the plan and he believes it and he's like, no bullshit, down for it, no problem. But if Battler is a problem, if he doesn't believe your accident explanation, if he doesn't agree to keep quiet, I will kill him myself because I don't trust you to do it. Fair. 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 Also, I need to make sure that you're down for this, Rudolph, because, the blood right now is all on my hands. So I'll tell you what. We're going to call up the kids, tell them about, let's make up some bullshit. Let's say that grandfather has a test for you to determine headship, blah, 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 blah. So, calling back to part 4. I'll lure Jessica out here. I don't remember where it was, the main hall or something, one of the studies. George out to the chapel. I'll kill Jessica, you kill George. So you get some blood on your hands too, so I know I can really trust you. And he's like, all right, bet. So that happens. Kyrie calls in Jessica. She pulls the gun. Jessica freaks out, and they kind of fight for a bit, but then she gets, brutally kind of murdered afterwards. Jessica does, not Kyrie. Rudolph calls over George, pulls out the gun. He's like, I really should just shoot you with your back turned, but, I mean, I'm a Western. I love Western movies. I love that kind of shit. That just doesn't sit right with me. And George is like, dude, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And he fucking kills him. George's like, but, I looked up to you. I thought you were super cool. Yeah, but I always told you, kid, don't become a guy like me. And then afterwards, Rudolph's like, man, I just killed someone. In cold blood, I killed a family member. I mean, it's not the first time I've been responsible for a death. I'm a con man. I swindle so many people out of their money, out of their life savings, for Christ's sake. And I've heard so many stories of people I've swindled killing themselves because they have nothing. But now I'm really the one responsible. Like, no, like I could always just kind of say, well, I mean, I'm not the one who killed him, but here I am the one who killed him, and oh, it feels good. It feels good to be the guy holding the gun behind the trigger. Kyrie, you really are a woman after my own heart. Oh, what you've just given to me is special. So Kyrie finishes everyone else off except Balor. You know, kills Maria, kills the servants. She's like, I can't find Cannon. I don't remember if she kind of puts two and two together. She's like, yeah, that's weird. He's just disappeared. Okay, but everyone else is dead. And Balor gets called out. While Rudolph is waiting for Balor, Ava shows up, still alive. Is like, where the fuck is my son? Sis, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're asking me that question, you probably already know the answer. So they both pull out their guns. They both shoot. Rudolph misses. Ava kills him. And after that, she encounters Kyrie. And Kyrie's like having a good time. Like, she's super fucking happy with it. She's proud of herself. So she confronts Ava and she's like, yeah, I killed everyone else. Everyone else, like even little Maria, like you murdered a 9-year-old. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hey, this is for all the marbles. This is for the money. This is for my man. This is for our life together. Like, yeah, well, I just killed your man. Fuck him. Fuck you too. All right. But I get to kill you. And I don't remember exactly what Lisa I'm talking about. And she's like, you have a daughter. Like, you have a kid about that age. What the fuck is wrong with you, Kyrie? And she's like, what? I don't care about Ange. I don't give a fuck about my kid. Why do you think I had a kid? Asumu had a kid with Rudolph, and it ensnared him to her. That's what Ange is. It is, like, you know, that old joke about, like, how someone will call their wife, oh, you know, the old ball and chain. That's what Ange is. That is the ball and chain chaining him to me. And without Rudolph, then I don't need Ange anymore. I don't care. And I know there's different theories here. There's a theory that, you know, a piece can't act out of character. And, like, that's not even a piece. This is what really happened. Is that Kyrie is being dead ass. And she is just being a mean-spirited person. There's also a theory that, you know, emotions running high. She just found out her man is dead. Kyrie is just saying some shit and kind of venting her frustration. Another theory is that Kyrie is going, I might not make it out of this. Like, she just murdered Rudolph. Maybe she'll get me too. Which means she will be the only family, like the only family Ange will have is my family, no, or Ava. And my husband killed George, so Ava might have every reason to take all of that vindictive energy onto my kid. So if I disown my kid, if I downplay my love for my daughter, maybe that will spare her from Ava's wrath. And Ava does kill Kyrie. And that's another thing when I kind of think about it too. It's like the reason she treated Ange so terribly, it's Rudolph's kid is going to inherit everything. The man behind the massacre. I mean, it's really Kyrie was the mind behind the massacre. Let's be real for a second. But it's like the sibling behind the massacre is going to inherit. The bastard who murdered my son, his kid, is going to get everything. No. Oh, she will. But she's not going to get the truth. Because I know that's what she wants, and fuck her. But also Ange, I'm not going to tell you the truth. Because I'm not going to tell you that the murderers you so desperately want to unveil are your mom and dad. And your mom's final words were about how she doesn't love you. Yeah, pretty understandable why Ava didn't tell her all that shit. So again, that's why I'm like, I see the Ava that I can just hate, but I also see the Ava that I just can't. Like, she's the new Shidomiya. She is a very interesting, complex, and ultimately troubled individual. So here, like, the characters that really stand out, like Will and Lion being cool, Burn, Maria, Yasu, Kenzo getting the backstory, Rudolph, Kairi, and Ava for the ending. Like, abso-fucking-lutely. A couple other things I wanted to bring up here, too, before I stop for a bit. I got a call from my mom. I want to call her back, and I think my laundry might be done. So, fuck. I've been talking about part 7 for 33 minutes at this point. While I read it in the VN, I read it in the manga, so I didn't get the music. I know the music that, like, plays during the confrontation with Berncastle, the Executioner, it's impeccable. It is incredible. I've listened to it a bunch of times. I fucking love it. Gotta shout it out. The scene when Will is talking to Shannon, like, before he meets with Kenzo, he's trying to ask her some shit, and he's like, okay, can you bring Cannon in here? I want to talk to him, too. And she's like, no, I can't bring in Cannon. You know, he's busy. The missus told him to do this. Yeah, well, I'm sure the missus won't give a fuck if I take him for, like, 5 minutes. Come on, go bring Cannon. I'm sorry, I can't go bring Cannon. Please, can you just do that? I can't bring Cannon. I don't think this narration was in the manga, but I know it's in the VN. Where it's like, as her eyes, like, lose all color and get super dark, which was in the manga. I think the narration is something along the lines of, so when a newcomer plays chess, something they might do without realizing it is moving their own king into check. Or like moving a piece that creates check. And an experienced player, what your job is to let them know, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. If you're an asshole, you'll let them move it and then just take their king. But no. You're supposed to let them know, you can't do that. That's an illegal move. Try to think of something else. What Shannon is doing to Will right now is the exact same thing. She is telling him, be careful and tread really fucking lightly. And kind of after that point, Will's like, okay, I'll talk to Cannon later. It's like, I love that scene. I think it's really good. Also, something I don't think I said is, in addition to the theme being about truth, not only do you find out what actually happened on Rokkenjima, you do get the explanation of this is how everything happened in parts 1 through 4. Not everything super specifically, like I don't think they specifically say this is who killed Nanjo, but you can really easily put it together at that point. And there's one part I remember, because I know in the VN, like the manga basically spells it out, the VN makes it a lot more vague. But essentially, Will's phrases are either allusions to illusions or earth to earth. Allusions to illusions is, this is some bullshit and, like, people didn't actually die, or, like, there's some weird shit that happened. Earth to earth is, no, that's legit. The one I remember is it's, like, the 4th through 6th Twilight, I think, in turn, when Goda, George, and Shannon all died in a closed room. She's like, okay, how did that happen? What's your theory? I remember the phrase, earth to earth, no one will deny that coffin is a closed room. It's like, oh no, that's legit. Shannon killed Goda, Shannon killed George, and then she killed herself. There's no bullshit, there's no witch. That coffin is a closed room. Like, that's kind of metal as fuck. And yeah, part 7 ends with Angela learning the truth. Lion does too. I believe Will and Lion were able to escape that fragment, but it was really fucking difficult to do so. And learns what fucking happened on Rokkenjima and learns the truth of her family. And then that will lead into part 8 after a bit of a break. And that brings us to the ending, part 8. I did it right that time. I didn't do the weird whatever that was. Twilight of the Golden Witch, which, as I have said, is my favorite. In terms of character introductions, it brings a lot of characters back. This is the Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is the everyone is here. Not quite everyone, because I mean, we don't see Auntie Sumadera, but like, aside from some of those like really minor characters in the future, all the Rokkenjima players, all the witches, all that shit, everyone comes back. With Erika and Avatris having really hype intros, by the way. But on top of that, There is one new character who was introduced who I did mention earlier. There's a Ikuko Toya. Is it Ikuko Hachiko or Ikuko Toya? I don't remember. But like Featherine's human persona has a writing partner. Part 8 is when you meet her writing partner. So I will put a pin in that because we'll talk about him when we get to him. And when I start talking about how I was fucking like crying by the end, which I know I've talked about a little bit before, but you know, let's get full context. So what Part 8 is, it is the culmination of Seacats' theme of truth versus belief. Trick. I was a trick or treat. It kind of is though. Like, do you pick the trick or do you pick the magic? Battler's game it's the Golden Land. It's like, here is everybody. And this is a special game for Ange. Like, this is if Ange got to go to Rokkenjima. And everyone's just really cool. There's no murder. There's no skullduggery. There's no family abuse. Like, Kinzo shows up in his bug-eyed sprite going, "Happy Halloween!" And just having a good time playing with his grandkids. All of the adults just get to hang out and be siblings, be in-laws, and have a good time. Shannon and Cannon are both their own individual people, with Beatrice as also her own individual person. She's able to become the head of the family with no real bullshit involved on the parts of the other siblings. They're okay with it. And Ange is very confused. She's like, this isn't the family I know. This isn't the family I remember or that I've been reading about. Why are you showing me this? All I've wanted is the truth. And Battler saying, who's to say this isn't the truth? Like, really, like, for all intents and purposes, it's like, Ange, what is more valuable to you? Excuse me. The cold, hard facts about what everyone did and like the shit they did. Again, like the abuse, the skullduggery. I love that word, skullduggery. The murder. Is that what's important? Or is the memory of them as people important? Without love, it cannot be seen. Love them and see them, maybe not as they were, but for who they could have been. Or for the person that was there deep down. What is the harm in remembering Kinzo? Not as this towering, intimidating figure who would just scream about a woman you didn't know. What's the harm of remembering him as someone who just wanted to play with his grandkids? What's the harm in remembering Aunt Ava as someone who did raise you, as someone who did love you, as someone who tried to protect you from the world and from the ugly truths in it? Like, I don't know, our parents being murderers. What's to stop you from remembering our parents as people who loved each other, which they genuinely did, but had good relationships with people? What's the harm in remembering Rosa and Maria for having a sweet relationship? And like on top of that, there's a lot of catharsis. Like when everyone's playing hide and seek, and you've got Kinzo, Kraus, and Nanjo just hanging out talking about guns, like just dudes hanging out, showing off their collections. It's a lot of fun. You get this scene between Beatrice and Natsui, and Beatrice forgiving her for what she did. And, you know, you can argue if that forgiveness is deserved or not, but it's a really sweet moment. You have Rudolph telling Kairi, this is what I did. Battler is your son. And Kairi, like, when she... Oh, man, I'm getting emotional already. Kairi just breaking down in tears when she gets that information. You have Ava helping Ange find everyone in a game of hide and seek, and her narration about, like, how much she did love this little girl, but how Ange's rejection of her just kind of broke her and alienated her. And she's like, sure, fine. If you want me to be the wicked stepmother, I will be the fucking wicked stepmother. And how Ava never forgave herself for how she treated this kid. But, like, she's not, like, she doesn't quite try to justify it. It's like, I know why I did it, but that doesn't make it okay what I did. And and then I think he gets some nice shit with like George and Shannon and like Cannon and Jessica. I don't super remember them, but I'm sure it happened. Of course, Rosa and Maria, where Rosa remembers just how badly everyone treated her, like how she, like Maria, would carry her doll everywhere, and her family, like, took it from her and ripped it apart. I think it was Rudolph specifically did it. And be like, hey, grow up, kid. And her being like, oh my god, I've done the same shit to my daughter. And her, like, taking her old little rabbit toy and playing with it with Maria and then playing dolls. And when, like, Ange and Ava find them, I'm starting to cry almost a little bit. Fuck. Like, when they find them, like, should we let them know that we found them for the hide and seek game? Like, no, just let them play a little bit longer. Like, they need this. It's like, that shit fucking got, as you can tell. There's, like, maybe a little what? Like, this isn't, like, an ugly cry, but, like, it got me, man. Like, that, again, like, these are two of my favorite characters in the story getting some very, very much needed catharsis, and it was wonderful. Then Burn crashes the party because everyone's invited. Burn shows up and Balor's like, yo, what's up? Haven't seen ya. Hope there's no hard feelings. Hope we're on good terms. Where's Erica? I was hoping she could show up too. And like, oh, Erica, she might come. She might whatever. But I want to play one more game. So they run a little murder mystery, which is a lot of fun. It's like, okay, so I don't remember what all the rules were. But something like, there's going to be a murder. The stage directions do not lie. A culprit, like, there is no accomplice, or it's like, okay, there are no accomplices except for potentially other culprits. Everyone speaks the truth unless they are a killer. Or it's like, unless they are a culprit is only someone who was killed. So you can't just, like, and you can't assist unless you are also a culprit. Maybe there's one, maybe there's more than one. If there, however many culprits there are, they're all there at the start of the story. A culprit can lie at any time as long as they do end up killing somebody. And I remember, so instead of blue truth, red truth, gold truth, everything is said in purple. And he's like, okay, what the fuck is the purple? So the purple, Battler, is just, these are statements. This, if they are not a culprit, everything in purple is true. If they are a culprit, it could still be true, but they have the ability to lie. Like, this is actually a really fun idea. I like this a lot. And by the end, the culprits, there were three, are Rudolph, Kyrie, and Battler. Which I feel like on the one hand, making the Battler the culprit is kind of to fuck with him. It's very much to fuck with Ange. Because, like, remember, Ange, this is the truth. Rudolph and Kyrie. Because in part 7, you never find out what happened to Battler, by the way. And there's also this idea of... my brain stopped for a second as I was trying to, like, find the words. So there's a character who shows up in Golden Fantasia and also shows up in, like, a short story called Black Battler, who I frequently will just refer to as Blackler. So, which I kind of love how that sounds. Clay is like, that sounds like a fucking Dr. Seuss character. Anyways, Blackler is the concept of Battler being the culprit. And just him being completely fucking off his rocker. Like, I've read the short story where he's like, I can't wait to see the, like, color of George's tears when I kill Shannon. I can't wait to see my father's dumb fucking face when he realizes I'm the culprit seconds before I blow his head off. I can't wait for Aunt Natsui to cry in my arms when she finds out what I've done to Jessica. And she's going to hear me. And she's going to think I'm crying. But I'm gonna be laughing. It's like, oh, Blackler's fucked up, dude. And so, like, yeah, that's kind of like a thing of that, too. Which I liked the mystery a lot. I liked the reveal a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. But, so the real conflict is around this point, Ange is fully rejecting Battler. She is getting, I really like to use the word seduced here. Like, she kind of gets seduced by Burn and Erica with the idea of the truth. Yeah, there's all this pretty shit here, Ange. Like, yeah, everyone's nice, but I thought you wanted the truth. I thought you were a witch of truth. I thought you just, regardless of what it was, you wanted to know what happened on that island. You just had to know what happened on that island. And then she finds out what happened on the island, which she already learned in part 7. Which I won't lie, that part kind of confuses me a bit. I'm like, wait, she wants to learn the truth that she just did. Huh? She was there. She already knows what happened. The fuck? But at that point, you know, Byrne again being the problem, Erica being the problem. Erica fights Battler and is like, hey, wait a second, I figured out what actually happened in part 5, you son of a bitch. I figured out what happened in part 6, you son of a bitch. I'm like, that's really fun. Erica also later shows up with a naval fleet wearing a pirate hat, and I'm all about it. I fucking love it. Scene when Erica is just fighting the family, and like she's like yelling at Krause for how stupid he is. He's like, you know, I might be really stupid, but all my fellow students will tell you I'm a hell of a boxer. He just uppercuts Erica, and he punches her, like, into Rosa. Rosa just puts a gun in her mouth, because Erica, no, it's like Erica says some shit about, like, Rosa, you're a terrible mother. You never loved Maria. And then she, like, gets a foot on her, puts a fucking sawed-off shotgun in her mouth. That is my beloved daughter, and I would do anything for her. And she almost kills her, and Erica's like, holy shit, if I was a second slower, I'd be dead. She jumps up into the air. Rudolph and Kyrie are just fucking shooting her like they're shooting clay pigeons. They're like, hey, we're really good at this. You should probably get out of the air, dog. Like, it's really fun. There's just kind of like a lot of plot bullshit that happens, and I don't mean bullshit to say it's bad, but I do mean it's like, yeah, there's just some like, oh, we gotta sneak into the assembly hall for the big reveal of the truth that if you read part 7, you already know what the truth is, and blah, 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 blah. And then Ange, essentially the way it feels to me is she's like, I want to learn the truth. Learns the truth. Opens the cat box, can't unlearn it, hates what she learned in the cat box, which she already learned in the last part, and is like, huh, I don't want this anymore. This sucks. I'm gonna fight for the other side. It's maybe, I think it does work. It feels maybe a little bullshitty, but I remember when I was reading, I'm like, nah, I'm into this. This is good. And like, a lot of the shit is fun. The part I really remember is Lamb helping them. She attacks Featherine, and Featherine just like stops time, pulls out a book, and starts writing. She's like, okay. And then Lambda Delta, you know, joined them, blah, 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 like, got really full of herself and attacked Featherine. You know, I'm going to skip the next paragraph and just write a little bit ahead. Lambda Delta is, like, knocked against a wall. Her limbs explode off. She's all broken, and she's dead. And scene. And then it fucking happens. They're like, what the fuck just happened? She's like, yeah, as the witch of theater going and like stories and shit, I'm running the story. I can write what's going to happen. Now there's a blank here, so I need to write what actually happened, but I'll get to that. And you know, I only did this because I was being attacked. Your fight's with Byrne, go deal with her. And then there's a scene where Battler just punches Byrne in the face, which is so satisfying. I definitely took a picture of that. I have a few pictures of like Byrne with a busted up cheek like that I took from the manga. I'm like, that's cathartic. That's satisfying. That's perfect. Fuck you, you piece of shit. But when everything is said and done, Byrne is defeated. Featherine's like, you gave me a good show. You gave me a good story. I'm good. You know what? I will delete that paragraph of Lamb dying. You all got my respect. Do what the fuck you want. So, all the members of the family besides Ange, you know, everyone else, they're like, they've been dead for fucking ever. This is essentially the Golden Land. This is like heaven. Like, Ange, you are now going to go back to the real world. You've seen everything you've needed to see. You have seen the truth. You have seen everyone here at their worst several times over. But you've also, now you have seen them at their best. You have seen people who love each other, who are willing to protect each other, who will die for each other, and who would die for you. Now, there's 2 doors here, and whatever you pick is whatever you pick. We are going to ask you one question. Beatrice, if you would. So Beatrice performs a magic trick. She opens her hand, shows there's nothing in her hand. Then she moves her hand over here, moves it over here, and Angela's going like, where's it? And then she pulls out her other hand, and there's a piece of candy. Now, you know, this is a piece of plastic, but it's a piece of candy. And then she asks her, how did I do it? Or it's like, so, was that a trick? Or was that magic? Now, I read the manga. like I said. So I didn't really get a choice. And it's not like in the manga, it's like, here's the trick ending chapter, here's the magic ending chapter. No, they're kind of both like, here's the trick ending, and then here's also the magic ending. And then the shit just kind of continues. And if I was reading the VN, you know, I would have said, okay, saving here, here's trick, here's the save file for that, magic, here's a save file for that, because I'm going to see both. But I had been thinking about it as I was getting closer. Like the night before in particular, I was like, okay, what would I pick? Like if I'm in that situation, like if I'm Ange and I get one choice, or if the VN is kind of in such a way where like you get one save file, you make your choice and that's your choice. Like a kind of like in a Pokemon game, you know? What do I choose? Do I choose trick or do I choose magic? And like I've said, I love them both. The trick ending is like, this is how things were actually done. No golden butterflies, no turning into smoke. This is actually how shit happened. This is who these people represent. Virgilia and Kumasawa are the same person. Ronov and Genji are the same person. And to me, it's like, this is what Lamb and Burn represent. They are the conflicting versions of Ange saying, I am certain nothing good will happen, but I want that miracle to happen. And the fact that Burn is her enemy almost feels like she's just so convinced that there can't even be a miracle that the idea of a miracle itself almost seems to mock her. I love that. The idea of Battler and Beatrice's game literally just being her trying to determine how could a person have done this, and the other part of her brain just almost mocking her for never being, almost like Beatrice represents Ava mocking her for never being able to come up with the truth. I love that. But the idea of the magic ending, the world, like, even with the cold hard truth, like, this is the fact, you can still see it in an optimistic way. You can still have hope. Maybe you're not remembering them, your family, for who they were, but you can think of what they could have been because that person was in there. Without love, it cannot be seen. The trick ending is when you don't have love. The magic ending is when you do have love. What do you pick? I would have picked the magic ending. I'm going to be honest about that. As much as I love the trick ending, as much as I will be honest, it's like I do still prefer the idea of what Lamb and Burn represent in Ange's head rather than them being actual game pieces, because personally I find them more interesting that way. I still like them, don't get me wrong. But it's A, I prefer them because I think that's more interesting, and two, because I hated Higurashi Go. I didn't watch Sotsu because I fucking hated Go. And the idea of like, oh yeah, this is kind of what Rika becomes. Or it's like the version, like this is all the Rikas that failed. But then this is what Sadako becomes because Sadako and Go is fucking awful and I hated what they did to her. I just want to pretend Go doesn't exist and I'm way happier that way. So I'm like, yeah, trick ending, let's go. But I can't deny just the optimism of the magic ending. I really, really like that. I love that. And, pun intended there. It works. It really does. And so I do think they both have their merits. I think they are conflicting but equally valid options. But in the trick ending, because the manga does show both, Ange is on the boat to Rokinjima with Amakusa and the ship captain. She reveals Amakusa's plot to kill her. It's like, so this is what you were going to try to do. This is what Okanogi wanted. Since everyone knew I was going to sell all the shares to the company, they did not want that because it would affect their bottom line. So your plan was to be with me, gain my trust, help me get to Rokinjima. Let the Sumaderas know I would be there. You would kill all the Sumaderas, and then you would kill me using one of their guns. Like using this gun that you have that's very different from all the others in your possession and remarkably like a Sumadera gun. This is your plan. And then she glocks him. He's fucking dead. The ship captain comes. I was like, what the fuck? What's going on? Mr. Captain, I have no idea if you're, like, I don't know if you're in this plot or not, but I'm going to be safe, and you can't prove to me that you weren't in the plot. And then she kills him. So after she kills him, she gets a visit from Erica, the Witch of Truth. So even in the trick ending, there's still witches. And they kind of talk about it, about how Ange just went, like, cold bitch mode and how badass it was. And she's like, yeah, you know, Erica, did you see the look on Amakusa's face when I told him what I was going to do? When I revealed the extent of his plan and how it wasn't going to work? That look was wonderful. I can't wait to see that look on other people's faces. With Erica just going, get done. So, like, yeah, in the trick ending, Ange survives. She's able to turn the tables on her assassins. But she essentially becomes Erica. And as much as I love Ange and as much as I love Erica, not really the ending I want. Although it is fucking cool. Like, I'm 100% going to say, like, it's badass as hell. In the magic ending, it goes back to when she jumped off the building. And she survives. And the guard's like, the fuck? Like, are you okay? What's going on? She's like, I'm fine. I'm okay. Does someone have a phone? Cool. Call Okanoki. Tell him all that shit about how I'm just going to sell it to whoever, give it to charity. Not going to do it. I want to have a meeting with him. I want to sell him the company because I believe he can do a good job. So Ange sells him the company. No one has to kill her anymore. She's like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, set up a trust fund. Like, I still want to be able to get, you know, some degree of, like, security in my life. But I'm going to change my name. I'm going to go off the grid. And I'm going to become my own person. So then the magic ending continues. And you go back to Rokkenjima. And you see what actually happened to Battler. Is everyone, like, after everyone was dying and shit, like, actually, I don't know if he had found any of the bodies yet, but he was trying to figure out what the fuck happened, and he finds Beatrice, who had survived Kyrie's shot. I think Kyrie just, like, hit her in the, like, at the collarbone. It, like, hit her with a blank or something. So, like, when Beatrice woke up, she's like, oh, shit. A bunch of dead people, don't know what's going on. It was trying to run around to see, like, can I find anyone? Can I save anyone? George, Jessica, Maria, Battler, please let me find someone. Finds all these dead bodies, but finds Battler. She's like, okay, this is what the fuck happened. Blah, 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 blah. And then she starts talking in Shannon's voice. She's like, wait, what the fuck? Shannon? Yes, I'm Shannon. Okay, shut the fuck up. Come on. And they're not able to get the bomb off, but they were able to, like, get into the base itself. I think they were able to get safe. Like, the island explodes. Ava's in Kumadorian, so she survives. Everyone else is already dead. She kind of reveals to Battler, like, more or less everything. So they're able to take, like, a couple things of gold, get on a little skiff, and go out into the ocean. So they talk for a little bit about, like, you know, what they should do with their lives, like, holy fucking shit. And then Beatrice jumps into the ocean to drown. Battler jumps in after her, and he, like, gets there. I think he's able to, like, grab her, but Beatrice drowns. Battler does not. Battler ends up, like, making it somehow to the shore somewhere. Alive, but barely. And it was either Ikuko hit him with her car, or, like, she was driving, or someone was driving her, and, like, they stopped just before they hit him. They took him in. So here's this dude who has no memories of almost anything, who's, like, barely alive. The only thing he can remember is that he's 18. So the name they give him, like, Toya Hachijo, or Hachijo Toya, I think it means, like, 18 or 18 years, something like that. So they lived together for quite a while, had a good time. He remembered that that she was a writer. I don't remember if she was always doing mysteries, but she loves writing. He really liked to read her stuff. He liked mysteries, blah, 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 blah. And then his memories come back. He remembers who he was, what he was doing, all of that shit. It's Ushinomiya Battler. But when his memories come back, it's not like he remembers everything. He's like, oh shit, I'm Battler. To him, he's got this, like, identity dysphoria where there's Toya and Battler is another person. He's like, I have another man's memories in my head. And it's weird because I'm Toya, but I remember being Battler. So when Ange had visited Ikuko, so I guess now I'm just calling her that instead of Everine. Okay. But when Ange is visiting Ikuko, I hope that was her name, otherwise I'm gonna feel really dumb. And they're talking about like all the forgeries and shit. Toya was there, but specifically decided not to meet her. He's like, no, I remembered who I was. I know who Ange is. I know what meeting me would do for her. But I refuse. Number one, I'm not really her brother. So even if I could say, like, yeah, I'm Battler, blah, 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 it wouldn't mean anything because to me, like, we're strangers. And I don't want to give her that false hope. Also, I'm terrified. Because what if I meet her and the Battler persona just takes over? Because I'm Toya. Like, he's not Sayo, where it's like, yeah, I pretend to be Battler some days, I pretend to be Toya other days. Like, I'm Toya, but I have Battler's memories. And if I meet Ange, I could die. And I can't do that. And then, not long after, he's like, I should have met her. I really should have. And he tried to find her, but he couldn't. Ange had disappeared, went off the grid. There was no record. Several years later, I don't remember if they specifically say the number. It's like another 20 years, 30 years or so after that, like quite a while. And I don't remember what her new name is, but she has a new first name, a new last name. She is now a prolific writer. She's a children's author writing stories about the adventures of Sakutaro because, of course, it's the sweetest fucking shit. And it's like, which, as someone who loves writing stories and telling stories, like her growing up to be an author, I'm like, this also just, I love this. This resonates with me. You go, girl. This is girl boss. Let's fucking go. So all this kind of shit happens. Like, she's been getting a lot of awards. Her shit's been adapted into, like, really well done stories, blah, blah, blah. She has an offer to meet with Hachicho Toya. Who, Toya is someone, because that is the name of the writer duo as well as Battler's persona. But both of them are very reclusive, so they don't often meet with people face to face. But Ange is like, oh, cool, like, I'll get to meet with her again. And she's also kind of had an inkling, like, you have so much knowledge of Rokenjima that it feels like it goes beyond an average, like, person with their theories. Which, that is something I forgot to say about Part 8. Real quick note is the goats come back in full force. And, like, what the goats represent are essentially all of the internet fan theories that people have about what happened in Rokenjima. It's like, I believe in this. Like, I believe it was all bullshit. There is no mystery. Which means the mystery characters like Will and Nox can't fight them off, but the witch characters can. And then there's other people who are like, I don't believe in magic. These are my theories. And, well, the magic characters are useless there, but the mystery characters can kick their ass. And it's really fucking cool. I love it. Like I said, I'm not trying to be like, Part 8 is a lot of dumb bullshit. I think it's cool bullshit. Don't get me wrong. But so, Ange has a meeting with both writers. And she meets old Battler. Like, dude is in a wheelchair. His hair is white. Like, he's got some wrinkles. He's like, I don't actually know. I want to say he's in like his 60s. I'm not trying to say like a 60-year-old is an old person, but we knew Battler when he was 18. It's like, this is old Battler. And he and Ikuko are not married, but they're married. Like, let's be real. Like, they're life partners. They've been together a long fucking time. I actually really love the two of them as a couple. Like, it's really sweet. So this is what he tells Ange, all that shit. Like, yes, I am your brother. I made it off the island. This is like what happened. I could have met with you. I didn't. This is why, but I've regretted it. I've been trying to find you, and now that I have, I wanted to be able to talk to you at least once. I was crying. I was crying hard. This was also an ugly cry. Like, my eyes were puffy, red. My tears were stinging. They were just flowing. I had to put my phone down just so I could cry. And then I'm reading and I'm still crying. It was lovely. But this happens. It's the sweetest fucking shit. And they do kind of agree, like, we're glad we were able to meet. But both of, like, I'm not Battler anymore, well, I'm not Ange anymore either. So while there is that closure, it's probably best if we never meet again. But afterwards, Ange's like, actually, hold on. Before we never meet again, there is something I want to show you. Would you be able to meet in a week? I don't remember what the time frame was. So they go to the orphanage because Ange is like, she's been running the orphanage like Eliza Hamilton. The orphanage. So she's been running that same orphanage, taking care of a bunch of kids. And Battler, when Toya sees, like, he goes in there, and I think there's like a part of the orphanage that's kind of been made to recreate the mansion, and there's that fucking portrait. Crying a little bit. It was just seeing it again. After all the shit in the story that has happened, all the people who have died, all of the closure, just me seeing that portrait again fucked me up as it is doing now. It was an ugly cry. It was a long cry. Like I said, like, for the next few days, like, because I saved that picture. It was literally just the portrait. And, like, it fucking broke me. And Toya being there and seeing it, it kind of exorcises Battler from Toya. And reading it, I was like, did he just die in his wheelchair? Like, I don't think so. And apparently in the VN, like, it's really makes it seem like he's dead. And from what I understand, Ryukishi specifically made it in the manga like, no, he isn't dead. But it's the Battler part of him passes on into the Golden Land, and like the ending of Titanic, and meets up with everybody. And essentially kind of combines with his old self and is able to, like, live with Beatrice forever in the Golden Land. So the idea of Battler being incompetent as, you know, the person playing with Beatrice is because he's literally not complete. The part of him that remembers mysteries and how fun they were and how good he was at them, he has literally been missing that part of himself, so no wonder he's a dumbass, which I kind of love. Like, that's really fucking brilliant. So I have to see if there's anything else, because I know there's one more thing I have to say, but I want to make sure I had everything else. Okay. The last thing I want to say before just doing my rankings of the books is it was this moment. It was also at the very end of the last chapter. It's like after Beatrice drowned and Battler didn't quite drown, but almost. It's almost like that's kind of where Battler died and Toya was born. So I guess, you know, going in the water, you can say it's like a baptism or something. The idea is that what the game is, it is Beatrice trying to remind the amnesiac Battler of his memories and who everybody is. What Seacats is, which you don't learn until the very end, is it is just the Divine Comedy. Battler is Dante, who has experienced hell. He has experienced the Rokkenjima massacre, losing himself, the realization that all of his family is dead, and working on these forgeries with Featherine as a way of almost kind of like venting those memories and not being like trying to like piece together what happened, because in his mind Ava was the killer, which is why they wrote Banquet. And then Ava read that shit and went, someone, like, that's not what actually happened, but it's fucking close. I have to meet this person. Met them and met Battler and realized like what happened. And she's like, okay, like, I won't tell her because I know you are now a different person, but, like, I won't ever see you again, but I wish all the fucking best for you and shit. And how the game between Beatrice and Battler is Dante and Beatrice at Mount Purgatory, and Beatrice trying to lead Dante into heaven. And that's what the story is. That's the final layer. There's the family trauma, or the family drama and generational trauma. There's all the murders and horror, and then there's the mystery, and then reinforced with, like, this is the tenets of a mystery. And then you've got the, like, truth versus belief, and then on top of that, you've got the meta shit of, like, this is a character reading a story, and, like, she's reading fan fiction, and all this shit. It's just different ways of viewing it. And then the final layer, you're like, what it's really been the entire time that you just didn't know until you got to the summit of Mount Purgatory, is all of this is actually just the Divine Comedy, which I've never read, but now I really fucking need to. I love it. Very fucking clearly, I love it. I wouldn't talk about it for, like, how long have I been doing this? Like 3 hours, 4 hours? Holy shit. I wouldn't, spend this much time reading it. I wouldn't spend this much time talking about it, fucking crying about it, if I didn't love it. I will frequently say that each book is better than the last, because the story to me just keeps getting better, because it adds more characters. I like a lot of these characters. It adds a lot of these ideas and these layers that I think are so fucking interesting, and they just keep enhancing the story. They just keep making it better. And I get to learn more about these characters, experience their depth, and, like, they're so interesting. They just keep getting more interesting. Fuck you, Kenzo. But you're still at least super entertaining. But if I have to give my actual ranking, and again, I love all of them. I love all 8. Like, the worst one to me is at worst, like, an A-tier story. Maybe a B if I'm being super mean. But, like, they're all at least A. Excuse me, my rankings from number 8 to number 1. Number 8, Banquet of the Golden Witch. I don't like it as much, because as fun as Avatrice is, I don't like her as much as Peak Beatrice or Erica or Burn as just the active antagonist. And while I do still love Beatrice and kind of what she's doing, I love her when she's at her most chaotic evil. Speaking of which, number 7 to me is Turn of the Golden Witch. I do think it takes a long time to get started, and it kind of drags, but when it gets going, it does get really good. I love how Beatrice is characterized throughout the entire thing, and I fucking, like, adore the ending shit with Rosa. Number 6 would then be Legend of the Golden Witch. I think part 1, like, it lacks a lot of the other things, like some of the other characters, like fucking Beatrice is not in part 1. But as just this work of horror, I think it's really, really good. Number 5, it would be End of the Golden Witch. This is where I feel like I'm really kind of splitting hairs. I'm like, it's really good. I love it. I just don't love it quite as much as some of these others, but it's fucking amazing. Number 4 would then be Requiem of the Golden Witch. I like a lot of the backstory. Like, I fucking love Sayo's backstory. It's so good. It's so interesting. Like, I know I talked in my Heaven's Feel and Fate videos about how my biggest problem with Heaven's Feel is I don't like Sakura. This is a character I pity, but I don't really like. And then by the end, like, I don't pity you anymore. You're just kind of an awful person. Sayo is an awful person, but she can be really entertaining. She can be, like, in terms of, like, she can be funny when she's going, like, peak Beatrice. When you're getting the confession of the Golden Witch in the manga, and she's like, I'm, like, all of her planning and shit. It's super interesting. It's really creative. Yes, she does horrible things. I'm not saying that I am rooting for her to succeed in murdering her family. But I still have, like, I still feel invested in this character. I still like them. I want to see what happens to her. Whereas with Sakura, there was a point where I'm like, I just don't like you, but I feel like I'm really supposed to, and there's just a disconnect here. But I do really like Requiem a lot. Number 3 is Alliance of the Golden Witch. I think it's by far the best question arc. I love what they do with Maria. I love what they do with Ange, and I love all the shit at the end. And, like I said, it's also on that short list of favorite characters. I honestly think the true ending, like, of all the shit with her in the future as a writer and shit, I think that did propel her to be my favorite character in Seacats. It's still not confirmed. I'm like, fuck, I love Beatrice and Battler and Erica and Maria and Rosa and basically everyone, but it might be Ange. Number two, like I've said, it's Dawn of the Golden Witch. It's Erica at her best. The logic error shit, all the meta shit, it's phenomenal. And Twilight of the Golden Witch made me cry thrice. I think it is a perfect ending. I love it. So my final concluding thoughts, I love it. It is one of my favorite works of fiction of all time. It has a genuine argument to be number one, which is not, I did not expect to like it that much. I thought I was going to think it was dope. I thought I was going to love it, but I'm like, I love this. Clearly. And the thing that it does for me, it's the kind of work that, like I say, like, I love writing. I love creating ideas. I love trying to, like, tell a story. It's the kind of work that inspires me. It's like, I want to make something like this. Not necessarily a murder mystery, although now my gears are turning. I'm like, I kind of want to. And not just something that has, like, layers upon layers upon layers. But, like, I want to make something that's just great. Like, how reading this just makes, like, reading this makes me want to go out and make something good. I want to make something that good that can inspire someone else to want to make something good. But it's so good. It's the kind of thing that where I read, I also go, but I know I can't. I know I can't make something like to this caliber. It's the same thing with Madoka Magica. It's the exact same feeling. I want to make something that good that inspires someone the way this inspired me. But I can't measure up to this. This is a whole other fucking tier. But I'm going to try. I'm going to keep going. And yeah, I love it. If you've read it, I hope you love it too. I've talked about a lot of my favorite scenes, shit that's made me cry. I gave my ranking of the books. What's your ranking of the books? If you've read them through VN, manga, however. Sorry, I need to like crack my neck. Who are some of your favorite characters? Do you like Rosa? Do you hate Rosa? I understand both sides. I am a Rosa simp. I have to wear it on my chest like this fucking Pikachu here. I think that's really all I have to say. But as the Kexi video says at one point, it is a story that starts with this unknown man screaming about a woman that we don't know. And it ends with us, like crying over that same woman. So I feel like there's only one way I can really end a Seacats video. Bad